The loop that starves you. Imagine hunger, not the pang of skipping a meal, but the hollow, gnawing ache that eats at your bones, the kind that makes time stretch and bend. Now, imagine you find a way out. You're clever, desperate. You find a crack in the world, a loop, a rip in time that lets you reach through, send food back, a message, a package, a chance. The plan is simple. You starve now, send food back to your past self, and the cycle ends. You imagine waking up tomorrow, fed and alive, the gnawing finally over. But that's not how the loop works. Not in this reality. You send the food back. The plate vanishes from your hands, the ration disappears, but the relief never comes. The ache in your stomach grows sharper, sharper still. You wait for the future to save you, but the timeline runs only one way. You realize, too late, that the version of you who received the food isn't really you anymore. That person, younger, hungrier, takes the meal and devours it, barely pausing to question where it came from. The plate is licked clean, the bowl emptied, the gnawing pushed back for one more day. But you, here, now, remain hungry. Your stomach twists. You starve again. The loop doesn't save you. It feeds the person you used to be. And so the story repeats. Every day you try to cheat fate. Every day you send the food back, praying this time will be different. You whisper to the past, survive, survive, survive. But the past never saves the present. The past only consumes, always hungry, always reaching forward, always taking what you give and never giving back. Others notice. They see the way your eyes grow hollow, your movements slow, your words slur. They offer help, but you refuse. How can you explain this hunger, this curse, this loop that starves you even as it saves the memory of who you once were? You try to eat, but every bite slides through your fingers. Every mouthful slips back in time, stolen by the shadow of your former self. You look in the mirror and see not one face, but a line of faces, each hungrier than the last, each reaching for the plate that never comes. You become obsessed with the idea of escape. You try to break the loop, hoard the food, change the timing, refuse to send the plate back. But the hunger grows until it is unbearable, until you are forced to feed the past again. There is no way out. The loop demands its due. You begin to resent your younger self, the child, the teenager, the hopeful, naive version of you who believes each time that rescue is possible. That version eats well for a while. That version grows strong on your sacrifice. But that strength comes at a cost. The future you, the one standing now, hollow and desperate, is nothing but the memory of starvation. Sometimes, in the brief moments before sleep, you wonder what would happen if you refused to play your part. If you let your younger self starve, would the loop collapse? Would you vanish, erased by hunger that finally caught up with you? Or would some new cycle begin, another, darker recursion, where every self in every timeline learns to eat the future, leaving nothing but shadows behind? You reach out for answers, but the loop is silent. It's a perfect machine, indifferent, automatic. It cares nothing for hope or fairness or mercy. It only knows hunger and the endless tragic recycling of need. You see it everywhere once you start to notice. The loop is not just in time travel or science fiction. It lives in everyday desperation, in the cycles of addiction, poverty, trauma, regret. You sacrifice now for a better future, but when that future comes, the hunger is still there, disguised, inherited, replayed. You feed the past at the cost of the present. The future you survives, but only by killing you, again and again. You watch others try the same escape. The parent working 2 jobs to feed a child, never eating enough themselves. The addict who promises tomorrow will be better, only to fall back into the same cycle. The survivor who sends hope back to a younger self, only to wake each day feeling emptier than before. The loop that starves you is ancient, patient, cruel. It waits in the shadows, just behind every act of self-sacrifice, every desperate gambit for survival. Some try to fight back. They build walls around their present, refuse to feed the past. But the loop is relentless. Sooner or later, hunger breaks through. You feed the child you were, or the ghost of who you hope to be. You watch as your present self fades, thinned out by the weight of all those hungry yesterdays. Is there any hope? Some say the only way out is to break the pattern, to stop feeding the past, to accept the hunger, to let the old versions fade away. But that too is terrifying. Who are you if you abandon the memory of your own survival? Who are you if you refuse to reach back, to save the self that once reached out for you? You begin to understand why the loop persists. It's not just a trick of time or a quirk of fate. It's a story about longing, about the desperate need to make sense of suffering, about the hope that by saving the past, you can save yourself. But the truth is harsher, colder, more honest. Sometimes, the only way forward is to let the past go hungry, to stop sending the plate back, to starve the cycle, even if it means becoming someone new, someone who survives not because of the past, but in spite of it. One day, standing in front of the empty fridge, you feel a strange peace. The hunger is still there, gnawing and sharp, but it is yours alone. You make a promise, not to your past self, but to the present. You will eat what you have. You will keep what you need. You will let the past be hungry, just this once. Maybe the loop will snap. Maybe it will rage. But maybe, just maybe, it will finally end. You close your eyes and imagine a world where the cycle is broken, where the present is fed and the future is free. It's only a dream for now, but it's a dream worth holding, even as the hunger lingers. Because in that dream, you're not just surviving, you're finally living at last. The juice that repeats. Imagine for a moment a simple bottle of juice. It sits on the table in front of you, ordinary, unremarkable, chilled just enough to bead with droplets, the label curling at the edges. Maybe it's orange, mango, lychee, something sweet and familiar. You pick it up, twist off the cap, and raise it to your lips. You take that first sip, and it hits you. Electric, vivid, a rush of flavor that lights up memory, sensation, something ancient and instinctive inside you. You pause. It's not just delicious, it's new. Somehow, impossibly, it tastes exactly like the first time you ever tasted juice as a child. Pure, intense, before habit dulls the senses, before memory can compare and categorize and reduce. You blink. You look away for a moment, distracted by a sound, a flash of movement, a shift of light. You turn back, bottle in hand. Maybe you notice it, maybe you don't. The label looks unworn again. The condensation resets itself. The cap sits just a little tighter than before. You take another sip. And again, it's the first time. Every single time. Most people would never notice. Most people move through the world on autopilot, never questioning why a flavor dulls over time, why excitement fades into routine, why every repetition is a little less bright, a little more familiar, a little less meaningful. They explain it away with chemistry, with psychology, with talk of taste buds and dopamine, and the adaptation of the brain. But what if, hidden among all the ordinary bottles in your fridge, was one that never let you adapt? What if, each time you blinked, each time you turned your head, each time you let your attention slip, the bottle reset itself, rewound its own history, returned to the moment before you ever tasted it at all? You start to notice the patterns. The juice is never half empty. You drink, you savor, you blink, and the level returns to the top. The cold never fades. The sweetness never tires your tongue. There's never any pulp at the bottom, never any sticky residue, never any sign of use. You try to mark the label with a pen, but the ink always vanishes when you look away. You leave fingerprints in the condensation, but the next moment, they're gone. No matter what you do, the bottle is always new, always perfect, always untouched, except by your memory. And yet, the memory remains. That's the strange part. You remember each sip, each flavor, each jolt of delight. It's not amnesia, not the Groundhog Day of the soul. You keep the experience, but the world around the bottle refuses to progress. It's as if the juice exists in a single eternal moment, a loop that closes itself every time you lose sight of it, a reset button built into the fabric of the object itself. You tell someone about it, maybe a friend, maybe a parent, maybe a stranger on a message board. They laugh at first, tell you it's nostalgia or a trick of perception, but you can prove it. You invite them over, set the bottle on the table, watch their face as they take a sip. The same reaction. Shock, delight, a kind of wide-eyed wonder you only see in children. You tell them to blink, to look away. When they turn back, the bottle is full again. They try to catch you swapping bottles, hiding a second in your sleeve, but there's no trick, no sleight of hand. The bottle repeats itself, perfectly, every single time. You start to wonder, what does it mean to experience something that never ages, never changes, never decays? Is it a gift or a curse? The first sip is always the best, the most vivid, the most memorable. But isn't the second supposed to be a little less? Isn't that how life works? Habituation, adaptation, the softening of surprise into comfort. But here, there's no comfort. Only the raw, endless shock of the new. At first, it's intoxicating. You drink and drink, reliving that first ecstatic rush over and over until the world itself feels brighter, sharper, more alive. It's like finding a cheat code for happiness, an endless source of pleasure that never diminishes. You start to ignore other drinks, other foods, other pleasures, because none of them can compete. They all fade, all grow dull, all lose their edge after a while. Only the juice remains, vivid, endless, eternal. But after a while, something strange happens. You begin to feel the repetition, not in the taste, but in your soul. The juice is always new, but you are not. Each time you drink, you remember the last time and the time before that. The juice is frozen in time, but you are not. You accumulate the memory, the weight of endless beginnings. The flavor is always first, always perfect, but you start to crave the dullness, the fading, the soft slide into routine. You want to remember a favorite taste, not to relive it for the 1,000th time. You want to grow with your experience, to watch it change, deepen, become part of you. You try to stop drinking. You put the bottle in the fridge, at the back, behind the leftovers and the milk. But it calls to you, a promise of the first time, waiting for you every time you blink. You find yourself drawn back again and again, helpless to resist the lure of something that never ages, never ends, never lets you go. You wonder, is this how addiction feels? Is this how obsession grows? Not through the slow dulling of pleasure, but through its endless repetition, through the refusal of the world to move forward, to let you outgrow the first sip, the first thrill. You start to see the juice as a metaphor for everything that refuses to change, everything that holds you in a loop of endless beginning, old relationships that never deepen, old routines that never evolve, old dreams that never fade. At first, it's safety, but after a while, it's a trap. You try to share the bottle with others. Some are enchanted, some are disturbed, some refuse to drink, sensing the danger in the promise of endless first times. You notice that people who keep coming back start to change, not in their bodies, but in their eyes. They lose the hunger for novelty. They stop seeking new flavors, new experiences. The world outside the bottle grows pale, washed out, less urgent. All that matters is the next sip, the next reset, the next perfect beginning. You begin to experiment. What happens if you pour the juice into another glass? It's still new, still perfect, until you look away, and then the glass is empty. The bottle is full again, the cycle unbroken. What happens if you try to finish the bottle in one go, without blinking? You drink and drink, but somehow you never reach the bottom. The flavor never grows faint. Your thirst never truly ends. Late at night, you lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if the juice is a blessing or a curse. Is it better to have one perfect memory over and over, or 1,000 fading, imperfect ones? Is the promise of endless first times worth the price of never moving forward, never growing old, never letting go? You start to fear the answer. You start to wish for imperfection, for boredom, for the gentle decay of things that are truly real. But every morning the bottle is still there, always full, always cold, always waiting to be opened, to offer you the first sip, the first taste, the first thrill. And you realize that the real trap isn't the juice. It's the desire to hold on to the first time forever, to refuse the passage of time, to live in a loop of endless beginning. The juice only repeats because you let it. The bottle only resets because you refuse to let go. You think about smashing the bottle, pouring it down the drain, banishing it from your life forever. But you know it would only reappear, new and untouched, the next time you looked away. The only escape is to choose change, to embrace the slow fading of memory, the beauty of things that don't last. The only way out is through repetition, through memory, through the gentle heartbreak of growing older and letting first times become last times. So, next time you drink, you close your eyes, Savor the flavor, let it linger as long as you can. You hold on to the memory, not the bottle. You choose to move forward, to let the world change, to let the taste fade and become part of you. And maybe, one day when you're ready, you'll take one last sip, blink, and let the bottle vanish, knowing that the true beauty of life isn't in endless beginnings, but in the courage to let each first time become something new, to let the juice finally run out, and to taste at last the bittersweet thrill of something that can never be repeated again. Coin toss that alters wars. You're in your childhood room, somewhere in the haze of 1992. Maybe you're a child. Maybe you're grown and only dreaming, but the memory is crystalline. You stand by your window as rain taps the glass, the world muffled and small, and you pull a coin from your pocket. It doesn't feel important, just a momentary ritual, an idle game to pass the heavy hours. Heads or tails, you whisper to yourself, and you flick the coin into the air, watching it turn end over end. It lands on your palm, shining in the soft afternoon light. Heads, you say aloud, or maybe tails. And in the silence that follows, you feel nothing at all. But far away, miles, continents, even worlds away, a general wakes from a troubled nap. He sits up suddenly, sweat on his brow, the echo of some half-formed thought rattling behind his eyes. He looks at the map, the movement of troops and borders and colors, and he hesitates. For reasons he cannot articulate, he calls off the attack, scraps the order, blinks as if awakening from a fever dream. The war never starts. Tens of thousands never die. Entire histories, entire lineages are spared the heartbreak of conflict because of a decision he can never quite explain. You never know any of this. Not consciously. Your life seems unchanged. But the next morning, you wake feeling strange, a guilt that lingers under your skin, cold and inexplicable, like the echo of a sin you never committed. There's an emptiness in you that wasn't there before, a hollowed-out ache that won't go away. You remember the coin, but not why it mattered. You look in the mirror, and for a moment, your own eyes seem like those of a stranger, a shadow of someone who once bore a burden, who once wore medals and scars and loss, who once stood in a field of the dead. Only now, all of it is gone, erased from your story. The world outside is ordinary. No headlines of invasions, no city in flames, no familiar grief on the television. But there are subtle differences. You notice it in the faces of strangers, the weightless laughter of your parents, the softness in the news anchor's voice. There's an ease, a lack of tension, as if the world itself is exhaling after a long, forgotten storm. But deep in your bones, you feel an absence. You can't name it, but you know you've lost something, some secret victory, some hidden price paid in a version of history that no longer exists. Days pass, then years, and you carry on. But every so often, in the twilight between waking and sleep, you feel a twinge, a distant memory of strategy, sacrifice, sorrow, a flicker of fear or triumph that doesn't belong to you. You see flashes of uniforms, the distant echo of gunfire, the faces of soldiers you never met but somehow remember. You sense a whole narrative, a branching timeline, where you were both hero and monster, where the coin landed the other way and history burned with your fingerprints. You start to wonder if you are haunted, not by ghosts, but by the memory of a life that once was, or almost was. Did you save the world or doom it? Was the war you prevented a necessary evil, or a crime averted by the thinnest thread of chance? The guilt you feel isn't survivor's guilt exactly, but something stranger, the guilt of having played a part in an event you cannot remember, but which has left its shadow on your soul. The philosophers and physicists talk about butterfly effects, the idea that the smallest change can ripple outward, altering the course of the world. But nobody warns you about the emotional residue, the burden of histories you never lived, the sorrows and victories that belong to someone else, but weigh on you just the same. You wonder if there are others like you, waking with inexplicable grief or relief, haunted by choices they never made. One night, you dream of the general again, the one whose mind flickered and changed because of you, though he never knew your name. You see him standing on a balcony, overlooking a city at peace. He feels restless, uneasy, his hands trembling with phantom orders, his heart heavy with the memory of a war that never happened. Somewhere in his soul, he carries the echo of another life, another world. In the dream, you reach out to him, but he cannot see you. You are just a shadow, a breath of possibility, a reminder that every piece is built on a foundation of choices both made and unmade. You wake up weeping, the coin still cool in your hand. You hold it up to the light and realize it's both a relic and a weapon, an artifact that chose the world you inhabit and erased the ones you'll never know. There is no medal for what you did. There is no statue, no parade, but you carry the weight of the unchosen futures, the wars avoided by the flick of your wrist. You live with the guilt of a victory you never won, a loss you never suffered, a history you wrote without knowing. And in the quiet moments, when you feel the ache most acutely, you remember that reality itself is more fragile than you ever believed. 1,000 worlds balanced on a single toss, each outcome with its own joys and sorrows. Each version of you carrying the burden of the choices you'll never recall, but will always, somehow remember. The thought you invented twice. There are moments in life when you feel, with a certainty that shakes your bones, that you have broken new ground. You sit alone, the world a dull hum in the background, and you write something down. A thought, a sentence, an idea so pure and original, it feels like it bloomed only for you, in the private dark soil of your own mind. You stare at it, letting the shape of the words settle into your memory, a signature of your existence etched in ink and intent. For a while you walk lighter, convinced that you have left your mark, a small, strange dent in the universe that belongs only to you. The idea sits with you, haunting your dreams and coloring your days. You talk about it to friends, cautiously at first, then with a rising tide of confidence. No one's heard it before. No one recognizes it. The world feels a little bigger, and so do you, living in the glow of creation. You start to imagine futures that pivot on this idea, books, discoveries, movements, meanings only you could have started. It is both a secret and a beacon, a piece of yourself more real than your own reflection. Then, one day, everything unravels. It happens casually, almost accidentally. Someone, an acquaintance, a stranger, a scholar with dust on their hands, hands you a yellowed page, a journal cracked at the spine. "This looks like you," they say, almost laughing. You glance at the cover, confused, and then you see it. Your own name, your own handwriting, aged and faded, scrawled across a date that predates your birth by decades. Your hands shake as you turn the page. There it is. Your thought, word for word, idea for idea, identical to what you believed you had invented. It's not just similar, it's exact. Even the mistakes, the odd phrasing, the telltale way you dot your I's and cross your T's. It's as if the past reached forward and carved a tunnel straight through your mind, pouring old ink into new veins. Your first response is denial. You search for explanations, maybe a prank, a forgery, some digital trick, but the paper is real, the ink is old, and the handwriting is yours, not just in style, but in substance. There are margin notes, sketches, subconscious flourishes you never show anyone, all rendered in your unique, unmistakable hand. The thought you believed you invented twice is suddenly revealed to be older than your own life. And now, all the rules feel different. You question everything, your memory, your sanity, your sense of self. Did you somehow see this journal in a dream, in a forgotten library, in the background of a photograph? Did you copy it unconsciously, a long echo returning home? Or is something stranger at play, a loop in time, a flaw in reality, a hidden recursion where ideas are not born, but circulated endlessly, wearing different faces as they pass from hand to hand? You start to notice the cracks. Your memory, once so clear, now flickers. You remember writing the idea alone, but the memory itself feels layered, like a palimpsest, old writing shining faintly beneath the new. You wonder how many other thoughts in your head are truly yours. You wonder how many other people have had the same revelation, faced with their own ghostly double, staring back at them from a different decade, a different life. It becomes a private obsession. You search old libraries, archives, abandoned drawers, chasing the ghost of your own handwriting through history. Sometimes you find nothing. Other times you find fragments, phrases, sketches, sentences, buried in the margins of books, letters, documents no one else has touched in years. Each time, the shock is the same. Recognition, vertigo, a sense of falling through yourself into a story you never wrote, but always lived. You begin to feel haunted by yourself. a traveler through thoughts already traveled, leaving footprints you can't remember making. You try to explain it to others. Some laugh, some worry, some drift away, unwilling to follow you into this fog of identity and time. But a few understand, those who have glimpsed the loop, who have felt the shiver of recognition at the wrong moment, who know what it's like to invent something only to find it waiting for you, already aged and dusted by history. They speak of thought echoes, of recursive realities, of the possibility that we are not authors, but conduits, channels for ideas that move through time, borrowing voices, leaving marks, returning again and again to be rewritten, rediscovered, relived. It changes you. You write more, but less feverishly. You start to wonder if every thought, every word is part of a larger script, one that plays out endlessly, with each person believing themselves to be the first, the originator, the singular spark. Maybe all creativity is a form of remembering, a decoding of signals left behind by forgotten selves. Maybe the universe itself is not a place of newness, but of endless repetition, patterns looping through time, searching for a mind open enough to receive them, a hand steady enough to write them down. You keep the old journal, placing it alongside your own, a reminder that the boundaries of self are thin and shifting. Sometimes you dream of rooms filled with copies of yourself, all writing, all erasing, all watching each other across the glassy divide of time. Sometimes you wake with new ideas, but now you check the shadows for their origins, wary of ghosts in your own script. One day you find a note in your handwriting, tucked into a book you're sure you never opened. It reads simply, "You will think this thought again." You stare at it for a long time, feeling the slow spiral of fate winding around you, a gentle trap made of ink and memory. You wonder if, somewhere in the future, someone will find your words, recognize your hand, feel the shock, start the cycle anew. And so, you write and you remember and you wait. Because maybe the point is not to be first, or last, or even original. Maybe the point is simply to witness the idea as it passes through you, to honor the loop, to leave a trace, to marvel at the strangeness of a universe where thoughts can be invented twice, and time is just another page waiting to be written. The second that multiplied. There are moments in life so subtle, so fragile, that you almost don't notice them. The second between breaths, the flicker in your eye when you're about to make a decision. You live, mostly, in a continuous river of time, each second spilling seamlessly into the next, each choice flowing into the future like a single unbroken line. But every now and then, something happens. 1 second stutters, fractures, and multiplies. Suddenly the ordinary present splits into 3 slightly overlapping versions of itself, and you are standing at the heart of a temporal crossroads, living 3 possible lives at once. Imagine it. The clock on the wall ticks. You blink. The world hesitates, just for a moment, and then without warning that single second ripples and splinters. You see yourself reach for the phone and answer it. At the same instant, you see yourself ignore the call and stare out the window. Simultaneously, in some ghostly overlay, you watch yourself get up and walk out the door. All 3 realities, layered atop one another, playing out in perfect, dizzying synchronization. For the briefest instant, you are aware of them all. Your mind whirs, rapidly absorbing the implications. What if I'd answered? What if I'd stayed? What if I'd left? The choices radiate outward, branching, spiraling, weaving together and pulling apart like 3 threads tangled in the same cosmic tapestry. In each version, you feel the weight of the decision, the rush of relief, the pang of regret, the gentle confusion that follows. You are not a single person, but a flickering array of possible selves, each one tracing a slightly different timeline. But then the moment collapses. Reality snaps back, like an elastic band pulled too far. The seconds converge. You feel yourself coalesces into just one body, one memory, one trajectory. You blink, take a breath, and continue as if nothing happened. But something is different. There's a lingering sense of dislocation. A ghostly afterimage of all the choices you almost made, all the lives you almost lived. For a split second, you were split, a trinity of selves inhabiting a single heartbeat. The strangest part is the forgetting. You know you made a choice, but you can't remember which path you followed. Did you answer the call? Did you walk away? Did you pause in silence? The events blur together, overlapping, unresolvable. Your memory contains the shadow of three distinct moments, each as vivid as the last, yet none more real than the others. You move forward with a gentle vertigo, haunted by echoes of futures you never claimed. It sounds impossible, a glitch in the matrix, a quantum fluke, the stuff of science fiction. But, if you're honest, you've felt it before. Those moments when you catch yourself standing at the refrigerator, but can't remember if you came for a drink, a snack, or just to escape your thoughts. The crossroads where you're sure you turned left and right. The conversation where you said both yes and no. The meeting where you both spoke up and stayed silent. Time, usually so solid, so trustworthy, ripples beneath you like water, and for a second, you are everywhere and nowhere at once. Scientists talk about the multiverse, the theory that every possible outcome exists in a branching infinity of alternate realities. Philosophers debate free will and fate, asking if choice is real or just an illusion, if we are truly the authors of our lives or merely actors reading from a script. But when a second multiplies, you are living proof of both theories at once. You are both the decider and the decided, both the path and the walker. All choices are real, and yet none can be held. There's a quiet terror in this. If 1 second can split, why not more? How many times have you multiplied, unremembered, your life fraying into a tapestry of lost possibilities? How many versions of you are still out there, living parallel, almost identical lives, differing by the slimmest of margins? Did one of you fall in love that day, while another stayed silent? Did one forgive, while another held a grudge? Did one step forward, while another slipped away? It's enough to make you doubt the solidity of the present. You start to notice the seams, moments where reality feels thinner, more malleable, more prone to fracture. You find yourself double-checking your memories, second-guessing your actions, haunted by the sense that you are both the author and the reader of a story written in disappearing ink. The world becomes a hall of mirrors, every choice reflected, refracted, folded back on itself until the real and the imagined blur together. But there is also a strange hope in it. If every second can multiply, then every regret is matched by a possibility, every mistake by a chance at redemption. Somewhere, in the infinite lattice of overlapping seconds, you are always starting over, always trying again, always reaching for the best version of yourself. You are never just one person. You are an endless experiment in becoming. Still, it's hard not to grieve for the paths you can never recover. You remember flashes, fragments of conversations that ended differently, faces that smiled or turned away, doors that opened or remained closed. You carry within you the ghosts of all the lives you didn't live, the roads you didn't take, the words you didn't say. In quiet moments, these alternate selves brush against you like shadows, their memories just out of reach, their choices echoing faintly in your heart. You learn to live with the uncertainty. You laugh at your own confusion. Forgive yourself for forgetting. Embrace the beautiful chaos of being more than one thing at once. You come to accept that reality is not as linear as it seems, that time is full of folds and creases, moments where the self divides and reunites, always slightly changed, always haunted by the possibilities left behind. So the next time you feel a second stutter, a moment multiply, let yourself pause, listen for the echoes, feel the weight of the choices you almost made, the lives you almost lived. Know that you are more than a single timeline, more than a single decision. You are a chorus of selves, singing quietly beneath the surface, holding the memory of a second that multiplied and the possibility that, even now, you are still choosing. Mirror that shows tomorrow's mistake. Everyone knows the old superstition. Mirrors are portals, windows, witnesses. They copy us, flatter us, sometimes betray us. But what if a mirror did something different? If it predicted you? Not hours, not days, but just a single second ahead. Enough to make you doubt yourself. Enough to turn the ordinary into the surreal. It starts as a curiosity. You're brushing your teeth late one night, the bathroom harsh and quiet, when you realize your reflection is out of sync. At first, it's subtle, a blink that lands just before yours, a tilt of the head you're about to make but haven't yet. Then you scratch your nose, but the face in the glass has already done it, a heartbeat ahead. You freeze, and so does your reflection, perfectly still, waiting. You lift your hand, And before you do, the mirror version lifts theirs, guiding you into the gesture. You test it again and again, moving, pausing, making faces. Every time your reflection is ahead, as if it remembers a script you haven't read yet. At first, it's fascinating. You invite friends, try to show them, but of course, the mirror behaves for others, sinking in perfect, obedient silence. When you're alone, the game resumes. Every blink, every breath, every twitch, your reflection leads, and you follow. You laugh at the absurdity. "It's just my imagination," you whisper. But deep down, you know this is real. You feel it. The way the air grows dense, the way the hairs rise on your arms. It's a loop you can't break. You're being predicted, mapped, outpaced by a version of yourself you can never quite catch. Days turn into weeks. You get used to it. You time your movements, try to trick the mirror. You snap your fingers, jerk your head, make sudden, random motions. The reflection keeps up, always 1 second ahead, no matter how unpredictable you try to be. It's not just copying, it's anticipating. Sometimes you let your reflection lead, and you realize you're not even choosing anymore. You're being directed by something on the other side of the glass. And then, one night, the pattern breaks. You're tired, bone-deep tired, standing in the dark bathroom with only the nightlight humming. The world is muffled, as if holding its breath. You stare into your own eyes, waiting for the familiar dance. But tonight, your reflection looks different. Its face is tense, strained, mouth tight, shoulders hunched. You see the shimmer of panic building, but you don't feel it. Yet. You try to move, to test the loop. Your reflection doesn't follow. Instead, it starts to shake, its lips part, its eyes widen in raw animal fear. And then, before you can move, before you can even think, your reflection begins to scream. The sound doesn't cross the glass. It's silent. But the mouth opens impossibly wide, jaw stretched in a howl you can only imagine. Your own body goes cold. Every instinct tells you to run, but you're frozen. Watching yourself scream in terror, trapped on the wrong side of time. The screaming face in the mirror pounds on the glass, clawing, pleading, eyes shining with tears. You step back, but your reflection stays pressed against the inside of the mirror, mouth still open, body shaking in silent horror. You want to ask, what are you warning me about? What mistake am I about to make? But the only answer is the endless silent scream, the glimpse of tomorrow's terror delivered 1 second before it comes true. For the first time, you realize that your mirror isn't just a window, it's a warning, a thin boundary between your present and the mistake waiting just ahead. You try to remember every moment, every movement, every feeling from the last few hours. Did you miss something? Did you say the wrong thing? Send the wrong message? Leave the door unlocked? You scramble to retrace your steps, searching for the error the mirror saw before you. The next day, the world feels wrong. Your nerves buzz, your stomach twists. You flinch at every shadow, every stray noise, every decision that could go sideways. But the day passes, nothing happens. You return to the mirror, hoping for relief. But the reflection is waiting, eyes hollow, silent, the scream coiled behind its lips. Over the following nights, the pattern escalates. Sometimes the reflection winces as if struck, a split second before pain registers in your own body. A stubbed toe, a paper cut, a burnt finger at the stove. Sometimes it shakes its head in silent warning, eyes wide, pleading with you to stop. Sometimes it seems to try to speak, mouthing words you can't quite decipher. But always, it is a second ahead, trying desperately to warn you before the next mistake is made. You become paranoid, anxious, terrified to act. Every decision feels like it could trigger the next scream. You lose sleep, avoid mirrors, start to dread even your own shadow. Friends worry. You withdraw, unable to explain. How do you tell someone that your own reflection is haunted by tomorrow? Eventually, you learn to read the signs. You move slower, watch for the faintest twitch of fear in the glass. You let your reflection guide you, stepping back from dangers you can't see yet, pausing before you speak, hesitating at every crossroads. You survive, but at what cost? Each day you live in the shadow of a future mistake, a second early warning that drains you of joy, of risk, of spontaneity. You're alive, but only because you let your reflection lead. The scream is always waiting, just a heartbeat ahead. One night, you gather your courage and confront the mirror. You stare into your own eyes and say, "Show me." You demand to know what mistake you're being warned about. What disaster lies just ahead. The reflection's lips tremble, and for a moment, it almost answers. You reach out, touch the glass. The surface is ice cold, solid, unyielding. The reflection matches your movement, but the eyes beg for understanding. And in that moment, you realize the real mistake isn't some single act, some looming disaster. The mistake is giving in to fear. The mistake is letting the warning become your master. You take a breath, force yourself to move forward, to reclaim the second you've lost. The scream fades, the reflection's face softens, the loop holds, but now you understand. The future isn't written. The mistake is only certain if you stop trying to live. You step away from the mirror, feeling the weight of your own life settle back into place. For the first time in weeks, you act without looking back, trusting that sometimes it's better not to know what comes next. And as you leave the room, you glimpse your reflection out of the corner of your eye. Not a warning, not a threat, but just a face, waiting patiently for you to catch up. Package from a future that hates you. Imagine a day like any other. You're at home, drifting through the familiar rhythms, your phone buzzing, emails stacking up, another delivery on the porch. Maybe you barely remember ordering anything. Maybe you know you didn't. But the package is there. A plain, heavy box, no sender, no return address, your name scrawled across it in a hand you almost recognize. For a moment, it feels like a prank or a mistake. You check the label, check your own hands, and carry it inside, not knowing you're already a character in someone else's story, a story that hasn't happened yet, but already blames you for the ending. You set the box on the table. It feels wrong, heavier than it should be, colder. There's a sense of dread in your stomach, like the first distant roll of thunder on a clear day. You find a note taped to the top, the paper already stained with something dark and sticky. The edges curling, as if they had made the journey through something more hostile than rain. You unfold it, your fingers trembling, and read the words written in your own handwriting. But with a shakiness you don't remember learning. You failed us. That's it. No greeting, no explanation. Just accusation. A verdict delivered from a courtroom you haven't entered yet. Before you even open the box, your mind spins with possibilities. A prank, a mistake, a message sent to the wrong person. But deep down, you feel the truth. This was meant for you. There's a weight in those words, a gravity that bends everything else in the room around it. You tear the tape, peel back the flaps. Inside, nestled in black foam, is a device. Cold, intricate, unfamiliar. Its surface is smooth, alien, stamped with a pattern of lines and nodes you've never seen before, but almost understand. As if the memory of inventing it is buried just beneath your skin. You reach out, hesitant, half expecting it to react, to flicker, to hum with some impossible energy. But it just sits there, inert and patient, waiting for the moment you catch up to your own future. Underneath you find the blueprints, paper, but heavy and brittle, as if it has been handled too many times, as if it's aged faster than anything else in the room. You unroll them, your hands leaving smudges on the edges. There, across every schematic, every line, every annotated margin, is your own handwriting. And splashed across it, soaking the fibers, staining every note, is blood. Your blood. You know it with a certainty that chills you, as if your body remembers a wound you haven't yet received. You stare at the plans, trying to decipher them. Diagrams of circuits you don't yet know how to build. Notes in your own code, your own shorthand, pointing to problems and solutions that make sense and don't, all at once. Some lines have been violently crossed out, some circled in frantic loops, and everywhere, in margins, are little phrases. It wasn't enough. Too late. Should have stopped. Each one feels like a blow. Each one is a message from a future version of you. Desperate and doomed, you sit there, paralyzed, trying to imagine the story that led to this moment. A story you haven't lived yet, but that is already being written in another timeline. What happened? What did you do or not do to earn a message of pure condemnation from people not yet born? You realize, with a growing sense of horror, that you have no way of knowing if your next choice is the one that brings this world into being, or if it's already too late to change the script. Your mind races through every science fiction story you've ever read, every warning about time travel and causal loops. But this isn't a fantasy. This is a threat, a curse, a legacy delivered with surgical precision to wound you in the present. The device sits between you and your future, mute but expectant, as if it's waiting for you to remember how it works. You try to guess. Is it a weapon, a cure, a final, desperate attempt to fix something you broke, or a monument to your failure? You turn the blueprints over, searching for a clue, for forgiveness, for anything less bleak than, "You failed us." But the messages only get worse. "We tried everything." You wouldn't listen. Now you have to live with what you've done. Each line is a wound that will never heal, a prophecy that hangs over every choice you make from now on. You wonder what kind of future would hate you enough to send this back. What kind of civilization, built on your actions, would look back and choose not to ask for help or guidance, or even mercy, but only to deliver blame? What kind of world did you help create? Is it a world of ashes, of silence, of unending regret? Or is it something more subtle? A world where the most important thing was lost because you chose comfort over risk, certainty over change. Maybe you're not the villain. Maybe you're just the last link in a chain of missed opportunities, but that's the worst part, isn't it? Because the box didn't arrive for your ancestors. It arrived for you. You try to shake the sense of inevitability. You want to believe you have a choice, that the future isn't locked, that the message is a warning, not a sentence. But every time you touch the device, you feel a cold pulse through your fingertips, as if it recognizes you, as if it's been waiting for this contact for decades, for centuries. You want to destroy it, to throw it away, to bury it somewhere no one will ever find. But you can't, because you know somehow that the act of trying to erase it is what guarantees it will exist in the first place. You look at your hands, searching for the wound that will one day bleed onto those blueprints. You look at your face in the darkened window, searching for the person who could let down a whole future, who could invent something terrible, or fail to invent something necessary. For the first time in your life, you feel the pressure of history not as something behind you, but as something reaching back, wrapping cold fingers around your present and whispering, "Do better, or else." You think about throwing away the box, burning the blueprints, ignoring the warning. But even as the thought crosses your mind, you realize you're already changed. The moment you saw the note, "You failed us," the future split, and every decision you make from now on will be haunted by the possibility of that world. Maybe that's the real message. Not a threat, not a curse, but a challenge. Can you do better, knowing what's at stake? Can you live in a way that the future would thank you, not damn you? Or will you look back someday at the ruins and understand that the package was always coming, no matter what you did? For days, for weeks, you pore over the blueprints, trying to decipher the machine, trying to find the one flaw, the one missed chance, the one moment you could rewrite. Every note, every bloody margin, every accusation is a mirror. You see yourself not as you are, but as you could become, the architect of a legacy you never wanted. The box never leaves your thoughts. The device never stops haunting your dreams. And so, you live differently. Not out of hope, but out of fear. Fear of being the failure that future generations despise. Maybe that's the point. Maybe the only way to escape the box is to make it unnecessary. Maybe the only way to break the loop is to act now, to invent something better, to refuse the easy path, to risk everything for a future that doesn't have to send back boxes soaked in blood and regret. But you never know. Not really. Every choice from now on is made in the shadow of that package. Every invention, every compromise, every chance to act or to let it slide. And every so often, when you're alone in the quiet, you feel the weight of the box on the table, the future watching, waiting to see if you'll prove them wrong or only ever confirm what they already know, that you failed them and that time, in the end, is merciless to those who waste it. Battery that loops time. There's a small solar panel in your window, humming quietly, soaking in the last slanting rays of yesterday's sun. You never think much of it. Charging batteries is routine, almost meditative. You watch the indicator flicker green, the little lithium cell warming gently in your palm. But this isn't just any battery. You can feel it in your bones, in the way your heart stutters every time you hold it. A faint, pulsing déjà vu, like a muscle memory you can't quite place. Sometimes, in that quiet hour between midnight and dawn, you get the sense you've done all of this before. The battery isn't special to look at. It's unremarkable, industrial, marked by numbers you've half memorized, and a scratch you don't remember making. But every morning, as the sky bleeds from violet to blue, you slot it into the same device. A battered clock, or maybe a toy, or maybe something so strange you've forgotten what it used to be. The device always powers up with a shiver, a little whine, a glitch in the background hum of the universe. You press a button, hear the tiny mechanical click, and the day resets. Not just in the metaphorical sense, not in the sense of starting fresh, turning over a new leaf. No, this is literal. Time recoils. The hours spool back, the world spins in reverse, and everything that just happened unhappens. You tell yourself it's impossible. You tell yourself you're imagining things, chasing dreams, living in a haze of anxiety and routine. But deep down, you know. The battery is a trapdoor in the world, a loophole built of sunlight and chance. Each charge locks the previous day in amber and lets you play it again. Same conversations, same arguments, same heartbreaks, same desperate laughter. Some days you remember everything. The words you said, the things you wish you'd done differently, the regret and hope that fester at the edges of your mind. Other times, it's all a blur. You wake in your bed, the battery warm against your chest, and you can't tell if this is the first time, or the 100th, or the 1000th. At first, you use it as a gift. Who wouldn't? You erase mistakes, take back angry words, save a friendship, save yourself. You try different approaches to the same problems. Cautious one day, bold the next, silent, then outspoken. You become your own experiment, a scientist with infinite samples, infinite chances to get it right. For a while, it's exhilarating. You live without consequences, learning everyone's secrets, playing the perfect moment over and over until the rhythm feels almost holy. You know what everyone will say before they say it. You anticipate tragedies and sidestep them. You become a master of your own small universe. But it doesn't take long for the cracks to show. There's a fatigue in your bones, a grayness around the edges of everything you see. The more you loop, the less real it feels. The sunlight outside your window seems pale, thin, like a copy of a copy. Your memories begin to overlap, fuse, and split. You can't remember which jokes you've already told, which meals you've already eaten, which tears you've already shed. Did you apologize for that mistake yesterday? Or was it the day before? Or was it hundreds of days ago in a loop nobody but you remembers? The device doesn't keep count. The battery holds its charge, impossibly, as if it's drawing from some cosmic reserve you were never meant to tap. People around you start to seem like actors in a script you've read too many times. They repeat the same lines, react in the same ways, fail to notice the exhaustion in your eyes, or the way your smile never quite reaches your lips anymore. You try to shake things up, to force a breakthrough, to make the day mean something new, but every change you make is swallowed by the reset. Only you remember the difference. Only you carry the weight. The loneliness becomes unbearable. You try to tell someone, but the day resets before they can believe you. You write yourself notes, record messages, tattoo reminders on your skin, but the battery erases them all. Every night, you're back to zero, with only the faintest traces left. A half-faded scar, a line from a dream, a memory you can't tell from fiction. Then comes the guilt, the creeping suspicion that you're not supposed to be doing this, that the sunlight that charged your battery was meant for another purpose, that you've stolen something sacred from the world. Sometimes, when you stare into the device's flickering readout, you see numbers that shouldn't be there. Dates from long ago or far ahead, or numbers that can't possibly be part of any calendar. You wonder how many loops you've really lived. Dozens? Thousands? Has your life become a footnote in a cosmic ledger, an error that must eventually be corrected? And then, one day, you wake and the battery feels heavier, warmer, like it's straining to hold more than it was ever meant to. The world outside seems softer, fuzzier, as if the edges are wearing thin. You look at your hands and they seem older, or younger, or simply unfamiliar. You wonder if you are losing yourself, fragment by fragment, every time you push the button and send the world whirling backward. How much of you is left? How much of the world is real? And how much is just the echo of yesterday's sun, replayed until the original meaning is lost? You want to stop, but you don't know how. You fear that if you let the battery die, you'll lose everything. Every memory, every lesson, every fleeting sense of love and meaning you've collected across endless loops. But if you keep going, you risk forgetting who you were before the looping began. So, you sit at the window as the day ends, the battery glowing softly in your palm, and you wonder, is this the first time you've watched the sunset, or the 1,000th? Is this the loop where you finally find a way out? Or is this just another repeat, another borrowed hour you'll spend and forget? And all the while, the device hums in the background, hungry for yesterday's light, ready, always ready to begin again. Hole dug through reality. It's just you and the earth, a summer afternoon carved out for nothing in particular. You take up a shovel, not for any reason you can explain later, not for a garden or a pipe or a body, but for the sheer wordless urge to dig. The ground is softer than you expected, giving way in thick, cool chunks. It feels good, almost meditative. The repetition of lifting, turning, discarding, sinking deeper into the private ritual of making a hole in your own backyard. Neighbors come and go, birds flicker overhead, but none of it seems to touch you. The world narrows to the ring of the shovel and stone, and the slow measured rhythm of breath and heartbeat. At first, it's just dirt. Then, as the sun swings lower and the hole gets deep enough to swallow your knees, something changes. The air grows thick, heavy. Sound gets distant, muffled, as if you're digging not through soil but through layers of invisible fabric. Your watch ticks slower. Or maybe your arms are just tired, the world bending around the edge of exhaustion. You stop for a moment, sweat streaking your brow, lungs burning, and peer into the hole. The bottom is shadow, cool and blank. The kind of darkness that feels bottomless even though you can see the edge. You measure, 6 feet, maybe a little more. You expect the sharp scent of earth, the tangled roots, the accidental treasures lost by others, but it's just emptiness. Waiting. Nothing's buried here. Nothing's waiting to be found. You're not even sure why you keep going, but you do. Shovel scraping, hands working by memory, each new layer feeling stranger, as if the ground itself is less certain than it was an hour ago. The air down here feels different, colder, thinner, as if you're pressing against something less forgiving than dirt. And then, something happens. The world tilts, not a dizzying spin, but a slow, steady shift, like a track slipping out of its groove. You blink, steady yourself, and for a heartbeat, the sound of birds, the color of the sky, even your own breath feels warped, as if you're listening to an old tape stretched just out of tune. You climb out, half expecting to see the world changed, but everything looks the same. The hole is just a hole. The sun still burns in the sky. The grass still moves with the wind. Your shovel is still warm from your hands. You wipe the sweat from your face, uneasy. You sense something has shifted, but you can't name it yet. You fill the hole with nothing, pat the earth back down, smudge away the evidence. 10 minutes later, you're sitting on your porch, water bottle in hand, staring at the patch of ground you just disturbed. And then you start to cough, hard, sharp, as if you've breathed in something dry and choking. You spit, try to clear your throat, but it's as if the air is full of dust, full of earth. You cough harder. Your eyes water. For a second, you taste the raw grit of soil, as if you've swallowed a handful. You press your hand to your chest, try to breathe, and with each ragged inhale, you feel not air, but the memory of digging, of dirt flying, lungs filling, darkness rising. You double over, the fit passing as quickly as it came, leaving you weak and shaking. You stagger back to the spot, staring at the disturbed earth, wondering if there's mold or spores or some buried poison released by your digging. But nothing has changed. There's no smell, no sign, just the faint outline of your work, barely visible in the gathering dusk. That night, you can't sleep. Every time you close your eyes, you feel the sensation again, earth in your throat, the ache of lungs burning from within. You remember the way time slipped, the way sound and color lost their place. You remember looking into the hole and feeling something look back. Not a presence, not a ghost, but the sense that something fundamental had been torn, exposed, or rearranged. Your dreams are feverish, full of holes and loops and muffled voices calling your name from under the ground. The next morning, the world is back to normal. Almost. You move through your day with the dull hangover of the impossible, second-guessing every cough, every stray memory. You try to laugh it off, but a question gnaws at you. What exactly did you dig through? Was it just soil, or did you pierce something deeper? A seam in the world, a stitch in time, a membrane separating now from then. You start to retrace your steps. You check the backyard, measure the spot, touch the ground, half expecting your hand to sink straight through. Everything looks ordinary, but now, in the quiet, you realize the true strangeness. You have the memory of digging, but something else as well. A flickering afterimage, like déjà vu gone wrong. It's as if, at that moment 6 feet down, you intersected another version of yourself. Someone who hadn't dug the hole yet. Someone whose lungs were still clear, whose afternoon was still untouched by dirt. And somehow, the shock of that meeting lingers, crossing the boundaries you thought were absolute. The idea grows, takes root. Maybe time isn't a straight line. Maybe there are places, hidden, accidental, waiting, where a simple act can punch a hole through the ordinary and let the impossible bleed through. Maybe when you dug, you didn't just move earth. You punched through a thin spot in reality, an old scar or a weak seam, and for a few seconds, your actions in the present looped back into your own past. Maybe you were always meant to cough dirt, to carry the echo of your own future, all because you reached a little too deep, a little too carelessly, into the world's foundation. You begin to watch yourself more closely. When you cough, you wonder, is this a warning, a signal, a side effect? Is it the universe's way of patching over a wound, or are there cracks everywhere, just waiting for someone to dig in the right spot at the right moment? You read about time slips, about phantom pains, about places where reality gets thin and accidents happen. Disappearing towns, vanished hours, the feeling of being watched by your own shadow. You wonder how many others have felt it, coughing up dirt from a hole they hadn't dug yet, haunted by consequences that run backward as well as forward. You start to keep a journal, marking the days when reality glitches. You become attuned to the world's odd rhythms, a crow that flies backward, a clock that skips, a song that rewinds on the radio. Sometimes you dig again, carefully, slowly, watching for the moment when the world slips, waiting for the next ripple, the next impossible sign that you are standing on the edge of something vast and unstable. And you wonder, if the world can break so easily, what else lies beneath the surface, waiting for a crack, a question, a hand with a shovel to dig just a little too deep. You close your eyes, feel the phantom grit in your lungs, and realize you've left a mark, not just in the earth, but in time itself. Somewhere, another version of you is still coughing, still digging, still searching for the edge of what's real. And you know, with a shiver, that sometimes the only thing separating past and present is a thin layer of dirt, and the courage to dig through it, no matter what you find. Chair that holds other you. You sit down in your favorite chair, expecting the familiar welcome of worn fabric and silent support. But tonight, something feels off. As you settle in, you feel a subtle resistance, a pressure beside you, a gentle weight, as if someone else is sharing the cushion. You glance to your left, expecting to see a friend, a pet, maybe the shadow of a memory. But there's nothing there. Only emptiness, silent and unoccupied. Yet the feeling persists, undeniable and strange. It's as if the air itself is heavy with presence, as if the chair remembers another body that just left, or hasn't left yet. You brush it off at first, blaming your imagination, the tricks of a restless mind at the end of a long day. But as you sit, the sensation lingers, a quiet pressure that pulses with the rhythm of your breathing. For a fleeting moment, you feel not alone, but doubled. You start to wonder if you're not the only one occupying this space. What if, just out of sight, another version of you is still here? A shadow self from 5 minutes ago, slow to dissolve, clinging to the fabric, unwilling to move on. Reality, you realize, is less stable than you think. We like to imagine time as a conveyor belt, clean and relentless, always moving forward. But what if time is messy? What if moments overlap, edges blur, and the past doesn't always retreat on schedule? Maybe the act of sitting is a handshake with your own history, a negotiation between the self you are and the self you were. separated only by the thinnest membrane of the present. You close your eyes and try to remember exactly what you were doing 5 minutes ago. Did you already sit here? Did you stand up and leave, only to return without noticing? Was your mind wandering while your body replayed a habit so smoothly you didn't mark the transition? Or was it some other you, another self, existing on a parallel timeline, who took this seat just moments before, and whose presence lingers now, invisible but undeniably real? You think about the way old chairs hold impressions, indentations that never quite smooth out, cushions molded by the weight of memory. Maybe what you're feeling isn't just a trick of the nerves, but a resonance, a ghostly echo of yourself, layered in time. Every time you sit, you're sharing the seat with all the selves who came before, the anxious self who slumped here in worry, the hopeful self who bounced in with big plans, the tired self who just needed rest. The chair remembers them all, and so, in a way, do you. There's something comforting about this, but also unsettling. The chair becomes a time capsule, a place where the borders of identity and chronology blur. You wonder, are you ever truly alone in your own space? Or are you always somehow haunted by the presence of other yous, selves from 5 minutes ago, 5 years ago, 5 lifetimes ago, lingering in the seams of your environment? You remember the times you've startled awake, feeling watched in an empty room. The nights when a seat beside you felt subtly occupied, when you sensed movement at the edge of your awareness, a warmth, a pressure, a presence impossible to explain. You've always dismissed it as nerves, or perhaps the persistence of memory, the way the mind animates emptiness with echoes. But what if it's more literal? What if time is more elastic than you've been taught, and the borders between past, present, and future aren't quite as strict as you imagine? Science tells us that matter carries memory. Fabrics, plastics, even air molecules vibrate with the traces of what they've touched. But what about consciousness? What if your thoughts, your moods, your very awareness leave imprints, hanging in the air long after the moment has passed? Maybe you're not just sitting in a chair. You're sitting in a crossroads of possibility, a place where the present collides with what was just here and what's about to arrive. You feel that pressure again. A gentle push, as if something is waiting for you to acknowledge it. Maybe it's the self you were 5 minutes ago, still wrestling with the decision you just made. Maybe it's the self who will occupy this seat in the next 5 minutes, their presence bleeding backward, searching for guidance, or warning, or comfort. You're all here at once, layered atop each other, invisible to the eye, but undeniable to the body. The chair is big enough for all your possibilities, more faithful than any mirror, holding your overlapping timelines in a silent embrace. There's a strangeness, too, in the way you forget. Did you already stand and leave? Did you only just arrive? Is the pressure you feel the echo of a habit or the artifact of a timeline you can't quite recall? The longer you sit, the more you sense the overlap, the blurring of memories, the shuffling of selves, the gentle friction of a chair holding too many versions of you at once. It's not frightening exactly. It's more like déjà vu, a soft nudge from the universe reminding you that existence is never as simple as it seems. You realize, then, how much of your life is spent in places like this. Chairs, beds, benches, train seats, always returning, always repeating, always layering the present over the past. You begin to see each space not as empty, but as crowded with the history of you, your hopes and regrets, your moments of clarity and confusion, your whispered fears and silent victories. Every time you return, you are both the guest and the host, both the one arriving and the one who never left. The pressure beside you softens, fades. Maybe your other self has finally moved on, or maybe you've merged, past and present, memory and reality, finally sharing the same chair, the same heartbeat, the same breath. You stand, and the cushion springs back, erasing the indentation, ready for the next you to arrive. But you carry the memory of the moment, the faintest echo of overlap, the sense that you were never alone. Not really, not even for a second. And next time you sit, pay attention. Feel the fabric, the air, the quiet pressure of other yous, waiting just out of sight, each carrying their own memories, their own reasons, their own version of now. Smile and welcome them. For in the chair that holds other you are always more than one, always layered, always connected, always both the visitor and the ghost, passing through yourself again and again as time folds and unfolds in the silence of your favorite seat. Game with recursive save. You sit down to play a game. Maybe it's late at night, the world outside your window silent and static. The glow of the monitor is your only light, your only anchor. In the game, you move through ancient halls, fight monsters, make choices. You feel safe, because at any time, you can save. The menu is familiar. Save game. One click and your progress is locked. No mistake is permanent. Every danger, every regret, every lost resource can be undone with a single reload. That's the contract you make with games. No consequences forever, not as long as you have a save file. But what if the save didn't just affect the game? What if, when you hit reload, reality itself bent to match the digital checkpoint? What if the world outside the monitor, the world of your own memories, your own body, the people you love, reset too? The first time it happens, you don't even notice. You mess up a puzzle or make the wrong dialogue choice, and you reflexively load the last save. The game screen flickers, the level resets, your character stands exactly where you remember. But something is different. You glance at your phone, messages you'd already read reappear, unopened. An email you deleted is back in your inbox. You blink, confused, but shrug it off. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're imagining things. But it keeps happening. Each time you reload, reality snaps to match the moment you saved. The song on the radio rewinds. The coffee in your mug refills to where it was before. Your cat, who had wandered into the next room, is suddenly curled at your feet again, dozing in the exact same pose. The same news headlines scroll across your screen. Your body feels strange, stretched across moments, a ghost of memories you're not sure you're supposed to have. You try an experiment. You save your game at 11:13 p.m., then walk to the kitchen and pour yourself a drink. You take a sip, set the glass down, and stare into the darkness. You go back to the game, reload the save. The drink vanishes from your throat. The glass is untouched on the counter. It's not just the game. The world itself has reset. At first, it's exhilarating. You can undo awkward conversations, embarrassing slips, clumsy accidents. You start to live recklessly, saying what you really think, trying outrageous things, safe in the knowledge that you can always reload. You experiment with your own life, walk into rooms you never dared enter, ask out the stranger at the cafe, spend money you know you'll get back with a click. You feel invincible, but then you start to lose track. Which version of the day are you in? Did you already have that argument with your friend, or did you reload and avoid it? Did you send that message or only think about sending it? Your memories pile up, layered and confusing. Some things feel familiar, déjà vu so strong it's paralyzing. You watch the world for glitches. Did that person just say the same thing twice? Did the sun just move backwards in the sky? Your own face in the mirror looks tired, worn thin by too many repetitions. You wonder about the other versions. The lives you've erased, the conversations that happened and then didn't. The feelings that evaporated the instant you hit reload. You remember things that never happened, arguments that ended in tears, kisses that were never given, mistakes you swore you'd fix. Are those versions gone forever? Or are they still out there somewhere, haunting the edges of reality, like old save files cluttering a hard drive? You begin to worry about the cost. If every reload undoes the present, where does the lost time go? Does it vanish? Or does some part of you, some ghost, some shadow, remember every path, every heartbreak, every disaster you rewound? You feel the weight of all your erased decisions pressing down on you, making it harder to move, harder to care. You try to stop. You try to live in just one version, no more saves, no more reloads, but the temptation is always there. Every mistake, every awkward silence, every moment of pain is a trigger, a voice in your head whispering, "You can fix this, just reload." Soon, you can't remember what you fixed and what you've only imagined fixing. You start to wonder if you ever made a real choice at all. Sometimes you wake up unsure of which reality you're in. Did you have that conversation with your father, or did you reload before he could speak? Did you quit your job, or just imagine doing it 100 times, never able to face the consequences? You become haunted by possibilities, your life fracturing into endless branching timelines, none of them real, none of them final. Your friends begin to notice. They say you seem distant, distracted, like you're never fully present. You try to explain, but the words come out wrong, so you reload, try again and again and again, chasing the perfect moment that never arrives. The world becomes slippery, unreal, a loop of infinite second chances that leaves you emptier with every pass. One night, you sit at your computer, finger hovering over the save button. You hesitate. What does it mean to live a life you can always undo? Is anything meaningful if you can simply erase it, start over, never let the past matter? You stare at the screen, and for a moment, you think about turning it off, living one day without a safety net. But the fear is too strong, the need for control, for perfection, for another chance. So you save, you reload, and reality buckles, reshapes, collapses to fit the checkpoint. You watch yourself, outside of yourself, almost, a spectator to your own life. You wonder how many times you've been here, sitting in this chair, staring at this screen, asking the same questions, making the same mistakes. You wonder if you'll ever choose not to reload, if you'll ever accept the world as it is. But for now, you live in the loop. Each day you wonder if this is the real one, the final timeline, or just another recursive save waiting to be overwritten. The lines between memory and imagination blur, and all you can do is keep playing, keep saving, keep searching for a version of life that finally feels real. Journal that Prewrites. Regret. You wake up and the first thing you notice is the journal on your bedside table. Maybe you've always kept one, old habit or a therapist's advice, or just a way to clear your mind before the day begins. You reach for it, expecting yesterday's entry, half-formed thoughts and drifting sentences, the comfort of unfinished memory. But this morning, something's off. The journal is open to a page you don't remember writing. The date at the top is tomorrow. You blink, rub your eyes, certain it's a mistake. But there it is, your own handwriting, unmistakable. The words flow in your voice, your cadence, but none of it is familiar. None of it has happened yet. It isn't a plan or a wish or a dream. It's a confession, a catalog of mistakes. Each line is a regret you haven't earned, a moment that hasn't happened, a slip you haven't made, a hurt you haven't caused. And yet, reading the words, you feel the ache of shame and longing as if they were memories from years ago. You flip through the pages, searching for an explanation, but the rest of the journal is as it was. Old entries, honest and flawed, days recorded in the language of living. Only this page is out of order, a fragment from the future, dropped like a stone into the smooth surface of your present. You read the entry again, slower now, tracing each mistake, missing a call from a friend who needed you, losing your temper at a stranger, ignoring a message that could have changed the day. Small things, but sharp. Tiny wounds you can already feel opening, even though you haven't lived them yet. The words are heavy with regret, with the kind of sorrow that only comes when you realize too late that you could have chosen differently. At first, you decide to treat it as a warning. You make a plan, set reminders to call your friend, promise yourself to be patient, resolve to answer every message as soon as it arrives. All day you walk on eggshells, eyes darting to every detail, afraid of stepping on the cracks the journal foretold. You tell yourself you're in control, that you'll prove the future wrong. But as the hours slip by, the day bends in strange ways. You miss the call, not out of carelessness, but because your battery dies while you're waiting. You lose your temper, not with a stranger, but with someone you love, over a misunderstanding caused by trying too hard to avoid conflict. You answer every message, but in doing so, you overlook the one that mattered most, the one from someone you never expected to need you. Each attempt to dodge regret tightens the loop. You don't just fulfill the entry, you amplify it, make it worse, layer new mistakes over the ones you tried to avoid. That night, you stare at the journal, hands shaking. Tomorrow's entry is gone, replaced by blank pages. But the sense of doom lingers, a whisper in the dark that you are living someone else's story, that your choices are only reruns of a script you don't remember writing. The next morning, it happens again. Another entry, another list of regrets, all signed with your name, all written in your hand. The mistakes are different this time, but the feeling is the same, a tightening in your chest, a wave of helplessness, the cold realization that your best efforts are not enough. You live the day in a haze, haunted by the knowledge that regret is waiting for you, pre-written and unavoidable. You try everything. Ignore the journal, Live the day as you wish, reckless and free. But the mistakes still come, sometimes exactly as foretold, sometimes in ways that feel worse, more random, more senseless. You try to destroy the journal, but every morning it's there again, pristine, waiting for your eyes. You ask friends if they notice anything different about you, but they just shrug, tell you seem distracted, anxious, distant. You begin to question everything, your memory, your sanity, the very nature of free will. Are you trapped in a loop, doomed to repeat the mistakes the journal delivers? Or is the act of knowing your regrets what causes them, as if the future cannot resist being fulfilled? You remember old stories about prophecies, about people who spend their lives fleeing their fates, only to rush headlong into the disaster they hoped to avoid. You wonder if regret, like fate, is a loop that tightens every time you try to escape. There are moments, late at night, in the silence between entries, when you begin to understand the truth. The journal is not a curse, not a punishment, not even a warning. It is a mirror, a reflection of the part of you that is always looking ahead, always doubting, always afraid of the mistakes you haven't made yet. It is the voice of regret itself, timeless and inescapable, haunting every choice, every moment, every day. You think about the ways people carry regret, how it lingers long after the moment has passed, how it rewrites memory, how it shades the present with the shadow of the future. You realize that everyone lives with a journal like yours, invisible and unspoken, a list of fears, of choices unmade, of apologies rehearsed but never spoken. Your journal is only different in that it makes regret visible, tangible, impossible to ignore. You try, then, to live differently, not to avoid regret, but to accept it. You read each entry with open eyes, acknowledge the mistakes as part of your story, not as failures to be avoided, but as lessons to be learned. You find a strange freedom in surrender, freedom to choose, to act, to fail, and to try again. Some days, you still make the mistakes the journal predicts. Other days, you surprise yourself, carving a new path through the maze of possibility. Slowly, the journal's hold weakens. The entries become vaguer, more like dreams than instructions. Some mornings, there's nothing at all, just blank pages and the quiet promise of a day unwritten. You realize that regret is not a prison, but a guide, not a sentence, but a signal. It shows you where you care, where you long to do better, where you are still growing. You close the journal finally and leave it on the bedside table, not as a warning, but as a companion. You wake each morning knowing that regret will find you, in one form or another, but also knowing that you are more than your mistakes. You are the story you choose to write again and again, no matter how many entries the future delivers. And so, you live, not to avoid regret, but to make it meaningful, to turn the pre-written entries into pages of growth, of forgiveness, of hope. You realize at last that the only way to escape the loop is to live as if each day is unwritten, to risk, to fail, to regret, and to try again, shaping your story one imperfect, unforgettable page at a time. Stranger recalls your future. It starts with something so ordinary you almost forget it. A rattling train, the stale smell of metal and sweat, a lull of exhaustion at the end of a too long day. You're slumped against the window, headphones in, watching the city lights flicker past, thinking about nothing in particular. The world blurs, half waking, half dreaming. That's when she appears. A woman in the aisle, worn coat pulled tight, eyes sharp and ancient beneath the bruised fluorescent lights. She stops beside your seat, leans in just close enough to be heard above the noise, and thanks you. There's a trembling in her voice, the kind that comes from genuine relief, someone who survived more than she's willing to say aloud. "Thank you for saving me," she whispers, as if it's a confession. She meets your eyes, searching for recognition, for some echo of memory. But there's nothing. You don't know her. You're certain you've never met. You fumble for words, managing only a startled laugh, the awkward stammer of someone caught in a stranger's story. But she only smiles, the sadness in her face so deep it feels like it could swallow a city. "Not yet," she says, as if reading your mind, "but you will." She glances around, as if wary of being watched, then moves her coat sleeve just enough to show you the jagged web of scars running down her forearm. Strange, raised lines, looping in a pattern too precise to be accidental. Your name, Each letter, unmistakable, carved and healed and weathered by years. You stare, transfixed, cold prickling down your spine. But before you can speak, she slips away, lost in the tangle of bodies and faces, the closing doors swallowing her silhouette. That night, you dream like you haven't dreamed in years, color and sound bleeding together, time running in both directions at once. You see her face, feel the heat of fire and the rush of fear, your hands reaching out to pull her from something catastrophic. You see the flash of your own name, written not in ink, but in pain, across the landscape of her skin. It's too vivid to be chance, too charged to be a coincidence. You wake with your heart pounding, the echo of her voice lingering in the dark. Not yet, but you will. Days pass, and the world feels subtly askew. Every crowded platform, every passing stranger, is charged with the electricity of possibility. You start scanning faces for hers, searching for the thread that will weave your lives together. You wonder if your future has already been written, if the moment you save her is a fixed point, a node in the web of time you're destined to reach. The dream returns again and again, filling in new details, the sound of shattering glass, the smell of smoke, your own voice shouting her name. Each night, the scars on her arm grow clearer, spelling your name in a language of wounds and survival. You start to question everything you thought you knew about time, about fate, about the lines between dream and memory. Was the train encounter a glitch, a message sent backward from the moment you haven't yet lived? Or are you just haunted by the fear that your life is less random, less free than you've ever wanted to believe? You tell a friend about the encounter, about the dream, about the woman who thanked you for something you haven't yet done. They laugh it off, suggest you're overworked, that it was just a coincidence or a prank or the weird bleed-through of dreams into waking life. But you know better. You feel it every time you see your own name written down, on your phone, your coffee cup, the edge of your journal. The letters don't look the same anymore. They carry weight, a secret you share with a stranger who knows a future you haven't reached. One night, you miss your usual stop. You step off the train onto an unfamiliar platform, driven by a hunch you can't explain. The air is thick, the lights too bright, and every echo sounds like your name whispered by someone you haven't saved yet. You wander, waiting for a sign. And then, across the tracks you see her, worn coat, haunted eyes, scars hidden just out of sight. She sees you, and for a split second, you both know what must happen. The dream is about to become real. You move before you think. Maybe it's instinct, maybe destiny, maybe the echo of all those nights spent dreaming her pain as your own. In that moment, the world slows. Choices collapse into inevitability. You reach for her, pull her from danger. Fire, crash. The moment doesn't matter, only that she is safe, only that the scarred memory of your name is now the reason she lives. Afterward, you both stand shaking, the world rebuilding itself around you. She looks at you with tears in her eyes, and now there's recognition in your gaze, a haunted gratitude, a love or a debt or a bond forged outside of time. You understand finally why she thanked you before. She presses your hand, leaves without another word, and you watch her vanish into the crowd. When you dream that night, the scars are gone. In their place is a new story, written in the language of mercy and second chances. You wake knowing the future isn't fixed, but fluid, woven from the courage to step into another's nightmare and change its ending. And every time you see your name now, you see not just the past or the self you know, but every life you might touch, every stranger who remembers you for the person you haven't yet become. Soap bar, that ages you. You find it in a hotel bathroom, or a guest house, or a relative's spare shower. A bar of soap, unwrapped, unused, sitting like a small promise on the edge of the sink. There's nothing remarkable about it at first. It's smooth, off-white, just fragrant enough to mask the scent of dust and old tiles. You pick it up, press your thumb into the surface, and feel the faint resistance give way. As if it was made to yield, made to dissolve, made to take something from you as much as it gives. You turn the water on and watch it pool in your palm, swirling around the soap's edges until the surface glistens. You begin to wash. Lather builds, thick, velvety, almost greedy. The scent sharpens, grows stranger, filling the small space with a note you can't name, old paper or wilted flowers, or the crispness of air just before a thunderstorm. The foam clings to your skin, pulling at you, tugging gently, insistently, as if it means to strip something away, not just dirt, but something deeper. You don't notice it at first, the way your hands move slower, the way your eyes feel tired, the ache in your jaw as you scrub. The mirror fogs. You finish, rinse, towel off, and only then, as you glance up, does the change settle in. Your reflection is altered, not ruined, not monstrous, but simply older. Your skin seems thinner, your eyes a little duller, as if you haven't slept in days. You lean closer, searching for proof, and you see it. Fine lines creasing at the edges of your mouth, the faint bruise of fatigue under your eyes, a grayness where before there was only shadow. You stare, stunned, and try to laugh it off. Maybe the light is bad, or the mirror warped, or your mind playing tricks. But when you touch your cheek, your skin doesn't spring back as fast as it used to. There's a heaviness, a weariness, as if the world has weighed you down in the space of a few minutes. You step out, dazed, trying to shake off the feeling. But as the day goes on, strangers ask if you're all right, if you've been sick, if you've lost weight. Friends look twice, then 3 times, searching for the familiar in the subtly changed. It's not drastic, not enough for panic, not enough for anyone else to do more than worry. But you know what's been peeled away. You can feel it in the way your thoughts drag, the way your laughter fades a little too soon, the way the world feels farther away, thinner, a little more brittle. That night, you can't sleep. You replay the day in your mind, searching for anything that could explain it. You remember the soap, its feel, its scent, the way it lathered. You get up, heart pounding, and go back to the bathroom. The soap is still there, smaller now, as if a piece of you was carved out and left behind in the swirl of the drain. You press your thumb against it again. The surface seems even softer now, yielding like old fruit. You imagine yourself washing and washing, growing older and older, the years sloughing off you like dead skin, until nothing remains but memory and dust. You try to forget, but you can't. The next day, the changes are more pronounced. Wrinkles deepen, hair grays, joints ache. You begin to avoid mirrors, avoid questions, avoid your own reflection in shop windows. Your life compresses, days telescoping into nights. You watch yourself become someone you almost recognize, a future self that arrives too early, uninvited, wearing your own face as a borrowed mask. Desperation sets in. You scour the internet for stories, for curses, for explanations. You find rumors, whispered half-truths, stories about objects that take more than they give, mirrors that steal your reflection, combs that draw out your years, shoes that walk you to the end of your road too soon. But soap? Nothing. Only one story, buried in a forgotten forum. A warning never to use soap you didn't buy, never to trust the hospitality of strange places, never to scrub too hard at what you wish to remove. You wonder if others have stood where you are now, trying to undo what can't be undone, hoping that time can run backward if only you stop washing. But the damage is done. You hide the soap, wrap it in towels, throw it away, but still the days tumble off you like scabs, each morning older than the last. The world begins to treat you differently. People defer, step aside, call you sir or ma'am in tones reserved for the nearly finished. You catch glimpses of yourself and wonder what happened to the person you were, a week ago, an hour ago, a lifetime ago. You try to hold on. You take photographs, write letters to yourself, desperate to mark the days before they vanish. You run your fingers over your face, memorizing the new landscape, the old bone beneath. You promise yourself never to forget who you were before the soap, before the world peeled you down to your core and left you raw, exposed, remade. Sometimes, late at night, you hear water running in the empty house, the sound of hands scrubbing, scrubbing, scrubbing. You wonder if you're hearing echoes of yourself or others, all trying to wash away something that will not leave, all discovering too late the price of cleanliness in a world that keeps its secrets well hidden. You start to fear every ordinary object, every bar of soap, every bottle of lotion, every mundane ritual that once promised comfort. You wonder how many things in the world are like this, innocent until touched, harmless until used, waiting to unspool the thread of time the moment you let your guard down. You wonder if you have already lost years you can never reclaim, if you have already set something in motion that can't be reversed. In the end, you learn to live with it. You slow down. You watch the days pass, each one a little shorter, a little sharper. You see yourself in others, their exhaustion, their quiet resignation, the small ways they age overnight. You wonder how many of them have found a soap bar like yours. How many are haunted by the memory of lost time? How many know the taste of age that comes too quickly, too soon? You tell no one. Who would believe it? Who would understand? You keep the secret close, a reminder to be careful, to be gentle with the world and with yourself. And when you pass a new bar of soap on a hotel sink, untouched and waiting, you turn away, older, wiser, and unwilling to risk what little time you have left. Pin that folds events. There's an ordinary pin on your jacket, just a small silver circle, a scrap of enamel, a badge picked up at some forgotten event. You never think much of it, not really. You fasten it every morning out of habit, barely conscious of the way your fingers fumble with the clasp. Maybe it's a memento, a gift, a tiny shield against the randomness of the world. But ever since you started wearing it, time itself has started to bleed around the edges. At first, it was subtle, just a creeping sense of dislocation, a blur in the order of your days. But now, it's undeniable. The pin folds events, splicing your timeline like a deck of cards, shuffled by an unseen hand. One morning, you wake up certain it's Thursday, except the sunlight outside feels wrong, and the messages on your phone all reference Monday's tasks. You blink, disoriented, sifting through layers of memory. Did you already finish the work you're supposed to start? Did you sleep through half the week? You search your calendar, but appointments overlap, reminders contradict, and the color coding has become a tangle of competing realities. Later, you catch yourself humming the birthday song during a funeral, laughter bubbling up at a graveside before you realize you're two events out of sync. The world tilts, your heart jumps, and for a moment, you're nowhere and everywhere at once, one memory ahead, one emotion behind. That pin sits at the center of your chest, quietly anchoring the chaos, folding days together in ways that shouldn't be possible. People around you don't seem to notice. They talk about time as if it's a straight line, moving from one clear moment to the next, untouched by interference. But your timeline is a Mobius strip, a looping ribbon of before and after, where beginnings and endings cross and confuse. Thursday bleeds into Monday. Breakfast merges with dinner. Phone calls from last week happen tomorrow, and tomorrow's arguments echo backwards into yesterday's apologies. At work, you find yourself referencing projects that haven't started yet, offering solutions to problems no one's asked about, congratulating people for things they haven't done, mourning losses that haven't happened. Colleagues glance at you, puzzled, but you shrug it off, hiding behind a tired smile. How could you explain that your sense of sequence has been folded, twisted, turned inside out? Birthdays mix with funerals, and every room you enter feels half haunted by a celebrations or a grief you can't quite place. Sometimes you burst out laughing at a meeting, only to realize you're echoing a joke that will be told an hour from now. Sometimes you cry in a quiet moment, grief welling up from an event that hasn't happened yet, or maybe already passed in a timeline no one else can access. You start to see the world as a palimpsest, layers upon layers of overlapping events, each one bleeding through the surface of the present. The pin is the needle, stitching past to future, future to past. You walk into your kitchen and find a half-eaten birthday cake next to funeral flowers, party hats stacked beside condolence cards. Your phone vibrates with a text, "See you at the wedding." But whose? And when? Your mind races, trying to keep track of which you is attending, which you is grieving, which you is already moved on. There's an exhaustion to it, a bone-deep fatigue from never quite knowing where you stand. You find yourself apologizing for things you haven't done, forgiving offenses no one remembers, falling in love with people you haven't met, or maybe already lost. You're always one event ahead or behind, a half step out of sync with the world. Sometimes, in moments of quiet clarity, you wonder if the pin is cursed, or magical, or simply a reminder that time is not as linear as everyone pretends. You think back to when you first started wearing it. Maybe you were grieving a loss, craving an anchor in the storm. Maybe you just liked how it looked, or wanted to remember something that mattered. But now, the pin has become a portal, one that refuses to close, bleeding meaning across the boundaries of your days. You're never entirely present. There's always another event whispering at the edge of your awareness, pulling you forward or back, insisting on its own importance. You are stretched thin, a thread woven through birthdays and funerals, laughter and mourning, beginnings and endings, all happening at once. Sometimes you try to fight it. You remove the pin, hide it in a drawer, hoping for order to return. But the feeling only intensifies, a tidal pull of overlapping moments, a longing for the comfort of sequence. You put it back on, and the world settles, not into normalcy, but into a familiar kind of chaos, one you've come to accept. You wonder if this is how everyone secretly feels deep down. Life is a blur of competing timelines, memories crowding the present, every event tinted by all the others that came before or will come after. There's a strange beauty in it, too. You find yourself more forgiving, more patient. Every sorrow is softened by a future joy you can already feel. Every happiness is deepened by the echo of a loss that lingers nearby. You see the connections between things, the way one moment ripples into the next, the way a smile at a funeral can carry as much truth as a tear at a wedding. You become a witness to the complexity of time, a keeper of tangled memories, a traveler forever slipping between the pages of your own story. And so, every morning, you fasten the pin to your jacket, feeling its cool weight against your heart. You walk out into a world of overlapping events, ready for whatever combinations the day will bring. You learn to live with the confusion, to dance through the folds, to let the boundaries blur. You are always one event ahead or behind, but never lost. Only layered, only unfolding, only alive in the impossible richness of a timeline stitched together by the smallest, strangest pin you'll ever own. Photo that warps daily. It starts with a photograph. Just one, framed in brass, propped on the mantel where sunlight touches the glass in the late afternoon. A moment frozen, a gathering no one can quite remember. The whole family together under a wide tree, faces soft with laughter. A dog sprawled at someone's feet, wind tugging at loose shirts. It's a picture that anchors you, a relic of the life you think you remember, a proof that everyone was, for a single second, together. But one morning, something shifts. You're passing through the living room, mug in hand, when your eyes fall on the photo. The tree in the background, old and gnarled, limbs reaching up like a hand, looks thinner. Not missing exactly, but smaller. You blink, shake your head, tell yourself it's just the light. But the next day, a branch is gone. The day after, the whole tree has vanished, replaced by a blank sky you don't recall from any memory. You ask your family if they notice. They squint at the photo, say it looks fine, maybe a little faded, but you see the difference, sharp, unmistakable. Something is being erased, the changes accelerate. A garden tool leans against the porch one day, gone the next. The neighbor's house, visible through the fence, slowly dissolves. The dog's collar, once bright red, dulls and then disappears. Each day you study the photo, heart thudding. Each day the world inside it contracts, details erased with clinical indifference. Then your brother is gone. He stood near the back in the original, half hidden behind your mother, one arm draped around her shoulders, eyes squinting into the sun. Now, only her arm remains, outstretched and resting on empty air. No one else seems to notice, or care. When you ask about him at dinner, conversation stalls for a heartbeat. Then your mother shakes her head, confused. "What, brother?" she says softly, voice thick with doubt, as if the word is unfamiliar. Your hands tremble. You try to recall his voice, his laughter, the way he teased you about your hair or raced you down the block. The memories are slippery, thin. You close your eyes and try to hold them, but already they're unraveling, like threads pulled loose by invisible hands. You start waking in the middle of the night, compelled to check the photo. Each time, it's worse. Now a cousin is missing, her place on the blanket replaced by a shadow. The dog is only a smudge. Your father's hat, so iconic in your mind, is just an outline, a suggestion. You stare at your own face, still there, but growing translucent at the edges, a faint double image, as if you're about to step backward out of the picture. Desperate, you try to capture the photo with your phone, to hold the original as evidence. But each digital copy is already warped, matching the latest version. Old prints in drawers, pictures tucked in books. They all change in perfect synchrony, the past rewriting itself every dawn. You question your sanity. Is this what forgetting feels like? Is this the slow decay of memory, or something more deliberate, a force erasing not just the past, but your very place in the world? You haunt your own memories, searching for proof, for something solid. But every memory that links to the photo seems thinner, less real, like dreams fading after waking. You consider destroying the photograph, burning it to ash, but fear roots you in place. What if that's the final erasure? What if the only thing holding you here is this fading image, this last record of who you once were? Then, one morning, your own face is half gone. You stare into the glass, at the phantom outline where you once smiled. Your eyes are dull, your mouth only a blur. You run to the mirror, desperate to see yourself, to confirm you're still real. The reflection is there, shaken, frightened, but present. Yet, you sense a difference, as if your body has grown lighter, less substantial. When you speak, your voice sounds muted, distant, like a memory of sound instead of the thing itself. You reach out to your family, to friends, to anyone who might remember. Their faces are blank, their words confused, their memories rewritten. "You've always been here," your mother says. "There's always been just the three of us." But you know the truth. You can feel the emptiness, the vanishing. The world is closing in, detail by detail, person by person, and still the photo changes. Now you are only a shadow, a faint outline in the crowd. Soon, you know, even that will be gone. You try to hold on, to memory, to self, to the sense that you existed once, whole and seen. But each day the past slips further away, replaced by a new version in which you are less and less. On the last night, you sit with the photo in trembling hands. The scene is almost empty now. A patch of grass, a stretch of porch, two figures with faces blurred. Your own place is just a void, a missing piece where a life used to be. You whisper your name over and over, willing the world to remember. And then, as dawn seeps into the room, you close your eyes. You let go. Not because you want to, but because there's nothing left to hold you. The photograph on the mantel gleams in the morning light. In it, the world is whole, untouched, a story with no missing parts, no evidence you were ever there at all. Somewhere, in a house that forgets, the sun catches the edge of the frame and a family goes on, never knowing what's been lost, never feeling the ache of absence. And the photo endures, rewriting itself with every day, a silent record of all the things we lose and all the selves that fade, until memory is just a blank piece of sky, and the past is only the story the present chooses to remember. Clock that never learns. It's just a clock. That's what you tell yourself the first time you find it. Old, battered, a little ornate for its place in the world. Maybe a thrift store, maybe your grandmother's attic, maybe a yard sale on a morning blurred by sunlight and memory. The face is glass, etched with hours that have faded to pale ghosts. The hands are tarnished, stiff, refusing to move even when you shake it. It isn't special, just another object the world forgot, waiting for someone with a little patience and a set of tools to give it another chance. You bring it home, set it on your desk, unscrew the back. The gears are gummed with old grease, the spring is wound too tight. But you're good with your hands. You clean it, you tinker, you reset the teeth and put it all back together. It clicks, then ticks, then purrs with a steady, hopeful rhythm. You wind it, set the time, and for the first time in years, it runs. The little dial counts the seconds, the hours. You watch it, proud of your work, not knowing you've just wound up a curse. The first time it happens, you barely notice. You're at your desk, late at night, the world outside your window gone silent. You're working, reading, lost in your routine. Suddenly the ticking stops. The hands have frozen. Not at midnight, not at noon, but at an odd, arbitrary time. 3:11. You glance at your phone. The minute reads 3:11. The hour, the moment, exact. The coincidence prickles your skin. You shrug, reach out, tap the clock. It doesn't budge. That's when you hear it. An echo, somewhere deep inside yourself. A memory you can't quite reach. A whisper. This is how long you've got. You laugh it off. It's late. You're tired. The mind plays tricks. But still, you can't help but stare at the frozen hands, feeling the air thicken, the room grow colder. You fix the clock again, oil the gears, reset the hands. It ticks, runs, keeps time. For days, weeks, it's fine. But then, in a moment you don't expect, a sudden illness, a car that almost misses you in the crosswalk, a jolt in your chest that vanishes before you can name it, the clock stops. The hands freeze again, always on the time when something inside you feels like it could have ended. You check the face, check the real clock, check your pulse. It's always the same, the moment of your almost ending. You realize the pattern. Each time you fix the clock, it runs until the hour you should have died. Not just might have, should have. Car accident, illness, mistake, dumb luck. The world throws a test, and you slip through by a hair's breadth. The clock marks it, never forgiving, never forgetting. The moment passes, you breathe again, but the clock refuses to tick further. It's as if it's waiting for you to catch up to its measure of your time. You keep fixing it. 7 times now, maybe more. Each time you set the hands, oil the gears, wipe the glass clean, it ticks with that same hopeful rhythm. Each time you forget, for a while, what it's counting down to. But it always finds the moment, the hour, the minute, sometimes the second, when you step across the invisible line between still here and should have gone. It freezes, records the deadline you just dodged, stamps your survival onto its face. At first, you try to outwit it, set it to the wrong time, run it backwards, hide it in a drawer. But it doesn't matter. The clock isn't watching the world, it's watching you. It learns the hour you come closest to the edge, and that's where it ends, no matter what you try. You test it, tempt it, walk into risk, and walk out again. Each time, the clock obeys a law deeper than logic. It ticks until your shadow almost slips away, then locks itself to the moment you survived. You begin to fear the clock. You dread the click of gears, the silence that follows. You check your pulse, check the doors, check the calendar. You become obsessed with causality. Was it the clock that marked the moment, or your own luck, your own defiance? Was the clock a warning or a record keeper? Does it count your luck, or does it assign your fate? You confide in a friend, someone who believes in odd things, who's seen too much to laugh it off. They hold the clock, inspect it, shake it gently. It's a marker, they say, eyes narrow. It won't let you forget what you've escaped. You wonder, is that mercy or a punishment? To live every day knowing how close you came, knowing the clock is keeping score. After the 7th time, you grow quiet. You move through your days with a new awareness of fragility, of luck, of the razor-thin line between presence and absence. You catch yourself glancing at clocks, at watches, at shadows on the wall. You start to feel time as a texture, a weight, not a number. Every tick of every clock becomes a reminder, not just of how much you've lived, but of how much you've almost lost. The clock sits on your desk, silent until the next trial. You start to think of it as a partner, not just a device. It waits for you, patient, knowing you'll return. Sometimes you try to hide it away, but you always find it again, ticking quietly, waiting for the story to loop. You wonder if it will ever let you go, if it will ever tick past your final hour, or if it's doomed, like you, to start over each time you cheat the end. You read stories of cursed objects, haunted clocks, time loops that never break. But your clock isn't angry. It isn't malicious. It's just persistent. It never learns, never adapts, never forgives. It only resets. Each time you live through the moment, the clock goes back to zero, like a heart that refuses to stop beating, like a story that can't find its ending. You start to write about it. You keep a journal, recording every time, every event, every brush with fate. You draw the clock face, the frozen hands, the dates and hours that line up with moments you almost didn't return from. The act of writing helps. It gives shape to the fear, makes it a story you can carry instead of a curse that carries you. You wonder if others have clocks like this, if everyone is keeping score in some way, marking the moments when time should have run out. One night, you dream of the clock. In the dream, it ticks and ticks, then stops. The room grows cold. You see yourself at the desk, older, tired, hands shaking as you open the back again. But this time, when you look inside, there's nothing. No gears, no spring, just darkness, and the echo of all the moments you almost didn't survive. You wake up sweating, heart pounding, the clock still on your desk, waiting for you to wind it one more time. You live with it. You make peace, in a way, with the idea that every life is a series of near misses, every story a collection of escapes and resets. You fix the clock. You let it run. You watch the hands with a mixture of dread and gratitude. You wonder what will happen when you finally reach the hour it marks, the moment it's been waiting for all along. Will you reset again? Or will the clock, at last, learn the lesson it's been trying to teach you? That time isn't just what you measure, but what you survive. And so, the clock waits, you wait, and together you tick through the hours, never knowing which moment will be the last, but knowing, deep down, that even if the clock never learns, you can. That every near ending is also a beginning, and every tick is a chance to fix what's broken, one more time. Paperclip that bends fate. It's just a paperclip, an ordinary one, nothing special, snagged from the bottom of a drawer or the scattered detritus of your desk. You barely notice it as you fiddle with it, absently working out the kinks, straightening the metal until it's almost perfectly smooth. The action is mindless, soothing, a way to pass the anxious minutes before a call or a meeting, or the moment you have to make a choice you've been dreading. But as the wire straightens beneath your fingers, something ripples through the fabric of your day, a disturbance so subtle you almost miss it. It starts with a ping on your phone. A calendar invite disappears. Another meeting rescheduled without warning. You blink at the screen, frown, refresh the app. Maybe it's a glitch, you tell yourself. Maybe the universe is just sparing you a few hours of boredom. But then your phone rings. An old friend calls to say plans have changed. Can you meet next week instead? You check your messages and discover a flurry of cancellations, apologies, rearrangements, the tightly packed blocks of your future, work, obligations, even those rare, precious joys, begin to slide apart one by one, like dominoes toppled in perfect sequence. You try to laugh it off. It's coincidence, you insist. But the timing is too precise, the effect too immediate. Each time you twist the wire a little straighter, the world seems to shift to accommodate. Traffic thins on your route. The weather changes. An opportunity you were dreading simply vanishes. The future you thought was set becomes soft, malleable, ready to be shaped, unwound, just like the paperclip in your hand. You start to experiment. A slow, careful bend. One appointment postponed, an invitation rescinded. A sharp twist. An email arrives, offering you a way out of something you'd secretly hoped to avoid. The more you manipulate the wire, the more you sense the boundary between cause and effect dissolving. You wonder, is fate really this fragile? Was your life always subject to the whims of such a trivial object? Or is the paperclip only a key, a focus, a channel, a way of noticing the subtle mechanics that underlie reality itself? There's a thrill in the control, a giddy power in the way your actions ripple outward, invisible but absolute. For a while you wield it with abandon, smoothing out the tangles in your schedule, carving pathways through chaos. Conflicts evaporate, stress melts, doors open where walls used to be. You feel lighter, as if you finally found the secret to living, untangling your future as easily as straightening a bit of wire. But soon you notice the cost. The future doesn't just shift, it unravels. Plans you looked forward to are wiped away before you can live them. Relationships thin, stretched across new timelines, where you no longer cross paths with the people who mattered most. Joys are postponed, then forgotten. The space in your calendar, so free, so open, starts to feel empty, echoing with the absence of meaning. You realize that every adjustment, every tiny change, has consequences you can't predict. You see yourself drifting, unanchored, in a sea of possible days that never quite resolve into a story you recognize. You stop fiddling with the paperclip, but it's too late. Your calendar has become a map of lost futures. Ghost meetings, forgotten anniversaries, laughter that never happened. You try to bend the wire back into its original shape, desperate to restore the order you took for granted, but it's impossible. The metal resists, stubborn and warped by your hands. The world remains out of sync. The days unspool ahead of you, each one slightly askew, each decision cascading into new uncertainties. You begin to wonder how many times you've done this before. How many versions of your life have been rewritten, erased, left unspooling like stray threads from a fraying edge. You think of all the people you might have met, the love you might have found, the adventures you might have lived. If only you'd left the paperclip alone. You wonder if you can ever go back, if you can ever find the path you lost. And so, the paperclip sits on your desk, straightened, gleaming, dangerous. A reminder that fate is not a chain, but a wire, bent and unbent by idle hands, carrying the shape of every moment you thought was set in stone. You look at your calendar, at the blank spaces where your future used to be, and you promise yourself to be careful. You promise to cherish the days as they come, to resist the urge to unwind what's already woven. But even as you make the vow, you feel the urge rising, the need to smooth, to shape, to control, because the truth is, you can never be sure. Was it really the paperclip, or was it always you, twisting fate one day at a time, leaving behind a future you'll never quite remember, unwinding yourself into a life forever being rewritten? Mirror that never repeats. You never notice the change at first. Every morning, same as always, you wake, stumble to the bathroom, and stare blearily into the mirror above the sink. For years, it was a ritual you barely thought about, a quick check to see if your hair needed fixing, if your eyes were puffy, if the day had already written itself on your face before you had the chance to begin. But over time, you start to sense something, an undercurrent, a question. Not all at once, but quietly, like a background frequency you can't quite tune out. One morning, maybe, the difference is so slight you could blame it on sleep, on light, on your own faulty memory. A stray freckle that wasn't there, a slight tilt to your nose, a jawline that seems less familiar. You lean in, frown, and try to reconstruct the face you've seen 1,000 times. The eyes looking back are yours, but not. The lines around the mouth are too soft, or too deep, or too far from where you remember them. You chalk it up to exhaustion, to stress, to the tricks your mind plays when you don't get enough rest. You move on. You live your day. But the next morning, the mirror offers you a new version of yourself, subtly edited, not better or worse, just different. A stranger wearing your clothes, bearing your history, but shifting around the edges. Your hair parts the other way. Your left eyebrow arches just a bit higher than the right, when it was always the opposite before. You try to smile, and the face in the glass answers, but the smile seems practiced, rehearsed, the echo of an emotion you meant to feel but didn't quite reach. Your fingers trace your jaw. The sensation is the same, but the reflection holds itself at a slight distance, as if you're watching someone else mimic your gestures. You start to keep track. At first, it's a game. Notes on your phone, blurry selfies snapped in the same spot, at the same time, every morning. You search for patterns, for a way to predict the changes, to find some hidden logic in the morphing geometry of your own face. But the differences never repeat. They never cycle back. There's never a moment where you see the exact same person twice. Every day, a new face stares back. Sometimes so close to yesterday that you doubt yourself. Sometimes so different you feel your heart race, hands sweating, mind spinning with dread. You ask others if they notice. You show the photos, but somehow they always see you, just you. Nothing strange, nothing wrong. The phone's camera betrays you, showing a face that's normal, consistent, immune to the shifts you witness in silver and glass. People laugh, tell you you're overthinking, tell you to get more sleep, but you know. You know the truth hides in the reflection, in the daily migration away from yourself. It begins to weigh on you. You find yourself avoiding the mirror, ducking your head as you pass shiny windows, skipping bathroom lights in public places. But you can't help it. Each time you look, you have to see. Each time you hope for a return, a reset, the comfort of your own face. Instead, you get someone else, a stranger with your memories, with your scars, with your hopes, but with eyes just a little too far apart, with teeth just a little too sharp, with lips that move a split second out of sync with your words. You start to question everything. Is this how it's always been? Have you been shedding yourself, cell by cell, for years without knowing? Is identity just the illusion of repetition, a trick of the mind to mask the truth that you are never the same from one day to the next? You begin to recall moments from your childhood, glimpses of your face in dark windows, in muddy water, in passing car mirrors. You wonder, was I ever really myself? Was there ever a me to return to? Some days you see reflections that unsettle you, a version with eyes too knowing or too lost, a version whose sadness runs so deep you flinch, a version that seems to smirk with a secret you'll never learn. Sometimes, it's a face that looks stronger than you remember, a version of yourself that survived things you haven't yet faced. Other days, the face is softer, younger, almost hopeful, as if you're glimpsing a life that might have been. You realize you're not just losing yourself. You're cycling through endless possibilities, ghosts of who you could have been or might yet be, summoned one by one behind the glass. It begins to feel like a slow erasure, a gentle, relentless wearing down of the familiar. You feel yourself fading, diluted by endless variation. Your voice changes, your mannerisms shift. You become a collage of former selves, a mosaic built from what you remember and what you've forgotten. You fear that one day you'll look in the mirror and see nothing at all, just empty glass. The last remnant of a person unmade by their own relentless renewal. And yet, in the midst of the terror, there is a strange freedom. If you are not bound to any single face, if every morning is a new invention, then who are you, really? You begin to experiment, holding expressions just to see what returns, telling the reflection secrets you've never said aloud, watching for a flicker of recognition in eyes that might not be yours. Sometimes, the reflection seems to respond, a tilt of the head, a knowing smile, a look that says, "Yes, I'm here too." You start to wonder about the others, the millions of mirrors in the world, the billions of faces remade each dawn. You wonder if anyone else is slipping, day by day, into the collective pool of the almost you, the not quite you, the infinite strangers that live behind the glass. You wonder if the world itself is a house of mirrors, each pane showing a new possibility, each one waiting for you to look away so it can change you again. One day, you catch yourself grinning at a face you barely recognize, and you realize you've stopped longing for the old you. The fear is still there, but so is something else, a curiosity, a willingness to meet whoever shows up next. Maybe this is what it means to be alive, to wake up each morning and meet yourself anew, to shed the old skin and let the unknown write its story on your bones. Or maybe, you think, the mirror never repeats because you never did. Maybe you were always a shifting story, a fleeting echo, a pattern forever just out of reach. You run your hand across the glass, feel nothing but cold and smooth and infinite possibility, and whisper to the stranger staring back, "See you tomorrow, whoever you are." Door that only opens backward. You discover the door almost by accident, a plain door in a hallway you've walked 1,000 times, one you're sure never existed before. There's nothing remarkable about it. No sign, no special handle, just the faintest sense of unease curling beneath the wood grain. You hesitate, then turn the knob. The door creaks open. You step through. On the other side, the world looks the same. Same furniture, same sunlight, same gentle hum of appliances. But something is off. A text message is missing from your phone. The news on TV is old, familiar headlines. You glance at the date. It's yesterday. A chill ripples through you. You laugh. Nervous, convincing yourself you're imagining things, that you overslept, that it's a glitch in your memory. But there's the same stack of unopened mail by the door, the same cup of coffee, still hot, still full. Just as it was yesterday morning, you check the time, it's right, the world is right. But you are wrong. You have stepped backward. You try again, stepping through the same door. This time, it's 2 days ago. The clock is still ticking, the world still spinning, but time itself is unspooling in reverse. You touch your face. Your skin feels the same. You're not getting younger, not regressing. Your memories are intact, your body unchanging. But each time you pass through the door, the world around you slips further into its past. The evidence is everywhere. The messages on your phone unsent, unread. The plants in the windowsill a little less wilted. The half-healed scar on your hand reopens, as if the event that created it hasn't happened yet. You begin to test the limits. You gather yesterday's mail, then step through the door and find the mailbox full again. You start a conversation, step through, and your words are erased from history, swallowed by the undertow. The past is alive, looping, waiting for you, but you remain unchanged, a refugee from a future that recedes with every exit. Soon, panic edges in. You wonder how far you can go. A week back? A year? The door seems tireless, opening only backward, indifferent to your confusion. You walk into a room and emerge into anniversaries that haven't happened, funerals unheld, relationships not yet broken or begun. You pass through the same hallway again and again until you're wandering a maze of vanished days, each step erasing your footprints behind you. People notice something different about you. Friends greet you as if nothing's changed, unaware of your journey through their yesterdays. You carry knowledge of arguments you haven't had yet, secrets you already learned, moments that for everyone else are still in the future. Sometimes you try to warn them, try to prevent a mistake or heal a wound. But the past is sticky, elastic. The world bends to the shape it once held, resisting your every attempt to rewrite it. You realize you are becoming unmoored. Your calendar is meaningless. Your memories doubled and tangled. You ache with nostalgia for a present that's always slipping away. At first, you thought you could use the door to undo regret, to fix what was broken, to relive happiness. But every correction unravels, every change dissolves. The door opens only backward, and what it gives you is only the illusion of a second chance, never the reality. Days blur into each other, time collapsing in on itself. You remember birthday parties, holidays, quiet dinners, then step through the door and watch them unhappen, candles unlit, laughter unspoken, empty chairs that were once full. You start to forget which version of each day is real, the one you first lived, or the one you now inhabit, knowing too much, unable to change a thing. Your body aches with the strain of timelessness. You haven't aged, not a wrinkle, not a hair out of place, but you feel ancient, hollowed out by all the yesterdays pressed into your bones. Sometimes, you linger in a moment, unwilling to let it go, even as you know it can't last. Sometimes, you try to run forward, out the front door, up the stairs, out into the street, but every door is the same. Every exit leads you further back, peeling away the days like wallpaper, revealing older and older patterns beneath. You search for the rules. Is there a way to break the loop? Can you force a door to open forward, to return to your lost present? You try again and again, desperate, determined. But the doors do not care. They yield only to the past, opening endlessly into memories, regrets, what-ifs, and might-have-beens. You begin to fear forgetting. Fear that, as the days unwind, you'll lose yourself. Forget who you were, what you wanted, why you ever opened the door in the first place. The world feels faded, like a photograph left in the sun, colors leaching out, details blurring. You cling to scraps of memory, little mementos from futures that no longer exist. The more you try to hold on, the more time slips from your grasp. One day you stand in front of the door, trembling. Behind it, another yesterday, and another, stretching back into a childhood you barely remember. You ask yourself if you have the strength to keep going, to retreat further, or if it's better to remain, suspended in a borrowed moment, a guest in your own life. In the end, you realize the door is not a portal, but a test, a question with no answer. How much of the past would you revisit if you could? How far would you chase your own shadow, knowing you can never return? The door opens backward, always backward, and what waits on the other side is not redemption, not rescue, but the simple, impossible ache of wanting to move forward in a world that only recedes. You close your eyes, take a breath, and step through once more. The world dissolves, days folding in reverse, and you wonder quietly if you'll ever find your way back to now. Song that birthed composer. Sometimes a song enters your life like a whisper in the dark, a melody you can't quite place, echoing in your mind as if you've known it forever, and yet never truly heard it until now. It finds you in the quiet hours, between dreams and waking, or maybe on a rain-washed street with no one else around. It's so familiar, so inevitable, that when you finally sit down and play it, on piano, guitar, the rough hum of your own voice, it flows from your hands as naturally as breath. You feel certain, as you press record, that the world has always waited for this song. That's how it happens. The song that birthed the composer. You share the melody, upload it, perform it, let it slip onto the radio waves. People listen, and something in them stirs. They hear longing, hope, grief. A story without words that speaks to everyone in a language beyond language. The song spreads, whispered between friends, played in silent rooms, hummed by strangers who don't know your name. And soon, the world knows you. You become the song's composer, the artist who gave this melody to the world. Fame arrives with a hush and a rush. Interviews, applause, the expectation that you will explain how you wrote something so perfect. But when they ask, you stumble. You try to describe that first moment, how the song just appeared, how it came into your mind fully formed. They smile, assuming modesty, or maybe the mystique of genius. But deep down, you know the truth. You don't know where it came from. You didn't write it. It found you, and in finding you, made you who you are. Years pass. The song becomes history. It's covered and remixed, woven into films, sampled in new music, taught in schools. Children learn to play it before they even know your name. It feels eternal, as if it's always existed, like a folk melody from before memory. You grow into your fame, accepting the title of composer, wearing it like a coat you never chose but can never take off. But then, one night, at a dinner party or a late-night radio show, someone asks the question, "Who wrote it first?" The question stings in its simplicity. You laugh it off at first, repeat the old story, how it came to you, how you captured it. But the question lingers. It follows you home. In the stillness, it gnaws at your sense of self. Who wrote it first? You retrace your steps. You search your memories for the first time you heard the song. The true first time, not the memory of recording it, but the memory of hearing it in your mind, before you ever touched an instrument. But it's a void. There's no origin, no spark, no earlier melody to borrow from. You comb through your old notebooks, demo tapes, fragments of childhood lullabies. Nothing fits. The song isn't built from anything you knew before. It simply appeared, as if it had always been waiting for someone to find it. You reach out, talk to other musicians, scholars, archivists. You ask if they've ever heard the melody before. They shake their heads, tell you it's unique, that you're the origin point. But you see a flicker of doubt in their eyes, as if they too hear an echo of something older in the song, something that predates memory. You dig through the past, chasing the ghost of a melody that no one, anywhere, has ever claimed. No old folk tune, no ancient chant, no half-remembered hymn. The song is new, and yet it feels impossibly old. The realization creeps in quietly, a shadow at the edge of thought. What if the song isn't yours? What if it isn't anyone's? What if somehow the song existed before you, and in bringing it to life, it wrote you into the world instead of the other way around? The paradox grows. You think about the way the melody came to you, not as an act of creation, but as a discovery, as if you were just the vessel, the passage through which it could enter reality. You imagine the song drifting through time, through dreams, through empty rooms, searching for a mind open enough to receive it. The moment you played it, the loop closed. The song had to exist for you to become the composer, but you could only become the composer because the song existed. You lie awake at night, haunted by the idea that your whole identity, the arc of your life, your fame, your sense of purpose, might not be something you built, but something the song needed you to be. You wonder how many other melodies wait in the shadows. How many lives are shaped not by what we create, but by what chooses us. The world doesn't care. The song endures, played at weddings and funerals, danced to in empty bedrooms, sung softly by parents to their children. You listen sometimes to recordings of others playing it, each performance a little different, but the melody unchanged. It's as if the song has slipped free of you entirely, using you only as a doorway into reality before moving on, eternally alive and forever unclaimed. In interviews, you grow more honest. I don't know where it came from, you admit. It just appeared. Sometimes I wonder if it was always there, waiting. Some people find this magical. Others are unsettled. They want their world to make sense, to believe every creation has a creator, every song a composer. But you know better now. Some things arrive out of order. Some stories write their own authors. Some melodies birth the hands that play them. You walk through your days, carrying the melody in your bones, feeling its weight and its wonder. You try to write new songs, but none come so easily, none flow so perfectly. Each attempt feels like an echo, a faint shadow of that one impossible melody. Sometimes, you hear it in your dreams, looping endlessly, a lullaby for the person you once were and the person you became the moment the song arrived. And maybe, in the end, that's what it means to be chosen by a song. to become the vessel for something older, deeper, and stranger than yourself. Maybe it's a gift, or maybe a haunting, but as long as the melody endures, drifting from voice to voice, from heart to heart, you remain the composer, even as you know you never truly wrote the song. And in that mystery, that impossible origin, you find a strange, enduring peace, a reminder that some things in this world are not meant to be explained, only heard, felt, and passed on, for as long as someone is willing to listen. Voicemail from collapsing timeline. You don't notice the missed call at first. The phone is on silent, face down, lost in a pile of bills and half-read books. Maybe you're in the shower, or caught in traffic, or just stepping out into the sunlight for the first time in hours, grateful for a breath that doesn't taste like dust or deadlines. By the time you pick up your phone, the call has come and gone. No number, no caller ID, just a single red badge and a waiting icon you almost ignore. You think nothing of it at first. The world is full of missed connections, calls that never mattered. But something nags at you, a splinter of dread that catches just under your skin. You check your voicemail. You almost never do. The last message was months ago, a robocall, a reminder, a fragment of ordinary life. This time the icon flashes with an urgency you can't explain. You press play, the phone pressed tight to your ear, and a voice floods the line, your own voice, but cracked, trembling, unfamiliar, as if dragged through a lifetime of sorrow you haven't lived yet. This version can't survive. Don't let it happen again. That's all. A phrase, a verdict, a plea. The voice breaks at the end, dissolving into ragged, silent sobs. Then static. Then nothing. You pull the phone away, staring at your own reflection in the black mirror of the screen, searching for signs of age, of exhaustion, of grief. The world is unchanged. The clock ticks. The cars pass outside. But inside, a new thread has been pulled loose, unraveling something you didn't know was there. You replay the message again and again. It's unmistakably your voice. Not just the sound, but the rhythm, the cadence, the secret inflections no one else would know. It's not an impression, not a trick. It's you. But the pain is alien, the fear unfamiliar. The message isn't for the world. It's for you, and you alone. You try to trace the call. There's no record, no number, no metadata to dig through. You ask your friends, your family, if anyone tried to reach you, if there's a joke you missed, or a story you've forgotten. They shake their heads, eyes drifting away, unwilling or unable to see the worry gnawing at your voice. They say you look tired, distracted, distant. You want to scream, "Didn't you hear it? Didn't you feel the world slip?" But all you can do is nod, smile, go back to the quiet of your room. You search the internet for explanations. Voicemails from the future, messages from parallel lives, warnings from alternate timelines. There are forums full of wild stories. Most seem like hoaxes, but every so often you see a comment that matches your own dread. A voice, a warning, a sense that something has gone wrong and only you are left to fix it. You click, scroll, follow rabbit holes deep into the night. Each answer feels incomplete, just another loop of theory and fear. You start to question every detail of your life. What does this version mean? What did you do, or not do, to send a version of yourself to collapse? You look at yourself in the mirror, tracing every line, every scar, every possibility. Are you living the right way? Is there a step you're about to miss? Are you the final branch, or just another in a long series of failed attempts? The message replays in your head at odd moments. This version can't survive. Don't let it happen again. The voice, your voice, breaks every time. You hear it when you hesitate before a decision, when you stand at the threshold of a room, when you lie awake at 3 a.m., watching headlights crawl across the ceiling. You wonder if this is how regret feels when it gets trapped between worlds. You wonder how many other messages have gone unanswered, lost in the static between timelines. You begin to notice glitches in your days. A streetlight flickers, then stays out for weeks. A friend forgets your birthday, though she never has before. An email arrives twice, then disappears. The small granular details of reality seem to loosen, drift, lose their anchor. You worry the collapse is already happening, that your timeline is fraying at the edges, and you're the only one who can feel the cracks. You try to be better, kinder, more careful. You make different choices, double-check the locks, leave the house 5 minutes earlier. But the fear is a weight, a second heartbeat that never quite matches your own. Each time you slip up, forget a promise, snap at someone, leave something unsaid, you wonder if that was the moment, if that was the failure the other you couldn't survive, if you've doomed another branch to end in silence and static. Sometimes you hear echoes, not words, not voices, but the feeling of being watched, not by someone else, but by another version of yourself, desperate and afraid, pushing against the walls of your life, begging you to do better, to learn the lesson they never could. You wonder if you've sent messages of your own, if somewhere out there another you is listening to your warning, your regret, your tears. You start to avoid your voicemail, dreading the next message. You imagine dozens of collapsing timelines, each one sending back their last plea, each one adding to the weight on your chest. Don't let it happen again. Is that a warning? A threat? Or just hope, repeated over and over, hoping one version will finally get it right? You realize after weeks that there's no escape from the message. Whether you answer the call or not, whether you change or don't, the burden of possibility remains. Every choice branches out, every regret leaves a mark. Every missed chance is a collapse waiting to happen. You are both the sender and the receiver, the survivor and the one who can't go on. One night, you gather your courage and record a voicemail of your own. You don't know who will hear it, or when, or in what world. You speak softly, honestly, tears on your cheeks you refuse to wipe away. You say, if you hear this, it's not too late. You're not alone. Keep going. I believe in you. You send it into the void, not expecting a reply, but hoping, desperately, that somewhere, some version of you will make it through. In the silence that follows, you feel something loosen, a knot untied, a weight shifted. You realize that survival isn't about perfection, or about dodging every collapse. It's about reaching across the gulf, leaving a message, daring someone else to hope, even if that someone is just another reflection of you, crying in the dark. You wake up the next morning and the phone is silent. No new messages, just the world, unchanged, waiting for you to try again. You carry the memory of the voice, not as a threat, but as a reminder that every day is a chance to save a version of yourself, to leave behind a world that can survive, even if just for one more day. The book that rewrites you. You find it one rainy afternoon in a secondhand shop that doesn't advertise itself. Just a brass bell and a painted door that always seems locked, except today. Inside, the air is thick with the musk of old paper, the hush of forgotten stories pressing in from every wall. The book calls to you not with a title, but with a sense of inevitability. Plain black cover, no markings, weighty in your hands. You pick it up, feeling a tingle in your fingertips, and before you know it, you're walking home with it under your arm, heart beating just a little too fast. You tell yourself it's curiosity, nothing more. The book sits on your nightstand for days, its presence growing heavier with each sunrise, until one evening you finally crack it open. The language is familiar, but slippery. You read the first chapter, then the second, barely noticing the hours leaking away. The story is strange but intoxicating, a tale of identities dissolving, of names misplaced, of memories traded like coins. By the third chapter, you're reading faster, unable to stop, the outside world receding until only the words remain. It's not until you stand to get a glass of water that you realize you've forgotten what you came into the kitchen for. You laugh it off. Everyone forgets sometimes. But as you return to the book, the feeling lingers. Each chapter pulls you deeper, and with each turn of the page, something familiar slips quietly from your mind. By chapter 4, you can't remember the street you grew up on. By chapter 5, a friend's birthday has vanished, replaced by a vague sense of loss. You press on, compelled by the need to know what happens next, even as the edges of yourself begin to blur. By chapter 6, you forget your middle name. You stare at your driver's license, lips moving silently, trying to recall the syllables that used to rest so easily on your tongue. But the space where your name belonged is blank, hollow, erased by the story you're devouring. You close the book just for a moment, heart pounding, but the urge to read is overwhelming. A hunger, a thirst that won't let you rest. You return to the pages, desperate to reclaim what's lost, only to lose more. The story grows stranger, more intimate, as if it's been tailored just for you. Characters appear that seem oddly familiar, echoes of people you loved and forgot. By chapter 7, you can't remember the sound of your own voice in childhood. Photographs lose their meaning, faces blur, laughter fades into static. The world outside the book shrinks to a point of light at the edge of your perception. By chapter 8, you notice something's wrong with your reflection. It's not just the fatigue in your eyes or the slackness of your features. It's something deeper, a blankness, a distortion. You lean in, touch the glass, watch as your face flickers, shudders, and finally vanishes. There's no panic, just a soft, dreamy resignation. In the story, a character loses her own reflection, and you realize this isn't fiction, it's instruction. With each page, the book is rewriting you, strip by strip, replacing your memories with the bones of its own narrative. You want to stop, but you're powerless. The book is in control now, its sentences burrowing deep, filling in the spaces where your memories used to live. Your life narrows to the story, your identity a palimpsest overwritten by someone else's hand. By chapter 9, you no longer remember the names of your parents, the place you were born, the lover you once wept for in the dark. You are a vessel, emptied and filled anew, the book's story becoming your only story. Others notice, of course. Friends call, but your voice is strange to them, flat, uncertain, peppered with odd phrases and unfamiliar memories. You forget to show up for work, for dinner, for the life you used to live. People drift away, unable to reach the person they thought they knew. You hardly notice their absence. The book whispers that you are special, chosen, needed for the story to be complete. One night, you reach the final page. The story ends not with a revelation, but with a question. A blank space, waiting for you to answer. But you have no answer, no history to draw on. Only the words on the page and the hollow echo where your life used to be. You close the book, hands trembling, and stare into the darkness. You have no name now, no face, no past. You are a story written by another's will, the ink of your existence still wet and uncertain. The book sits on your shelf, plain and unassuming, waiting for the next reader. You pass by it sometimes, feeling the faintest flicker of recognition, a longing for something lost. But there is no going back. Your memories are gone, scattered like pages in the wind, and all that remains is the echo of a story that once was you. Blackout that forked you. It happens without warning, a brief, sharp rupture in the everyday script of your life. One moment you're standing there, scrolling through your phone, the world a familiar blur of messages and notifications, an unremarkable light. The next, everything goes dark. Not a slow fade, not the gentle drift of sleep or the numbing hush of exhaustion. Just an abrupt, slicing blackout. 11 seconds, though you don't know it then. It feels outside time, a pocket of nothing wedged between heartbeats. You wake with a jolt, breath snatched in your chest, cold sweat on your neck. For a heartbeat, everything looks the same. Same ceiling, same lamp, same open window framing the evening sky. But the phone in your hand is wrong. It's still yours. Same case, same crack along the edge, same familiar smudge on the screen. Your thumbprint still unlocks it, but the world inside is unrecognizable. The home screen's different. The wallpaper isn't yours, an image you'd never choose, something haunting and beautiful in a way you can't explain. Apps you don't remember installing, notifications from names you've never seen, messages piling up, urgent and intimate, as if you've lived 1,000 days as someone else, somewhere just beyond the reach of memory. Your photos are still there, but peppered among them are images of places you've never visited, people you've never met, events that never happened to you. The details are all wrong. Street names, weather, a different scar on your knuckle in every other shot. Your heart races as you flick through the gallery, feeling the boundaries of your own life warp and buckle. You try to retrace your steps. Where were you at 11 seconds ago? At home? On the bus? Walking down the street? Each memory feels slippery, unanchored, like you're trying to grip water in your fists. You tap through texts, some from familiar contacts, others from strangers who call you by a nickname you've never heard. You see group chats about events you never attended, references to inside jokes that mean nothing, a torrent of history belonging to someone with your face, your voice, your fingerprints, but not your story. You check your accounts, social media, email, banking. Some passwords work, others don't. Your social feeds are an uncanny valley, full of posts you don't remember making, likes and shares that don't reflect your interests, connections to people you can't place. Your timeline is skewed, forked. Moments you thought were private are now public, and secrets you never told are hanging in the open. You scroll back, desperate for proof, for an anchor in the chaos, but all you find are divergences. A birthday party thrown in a different city, a job you never took, an argument you never had but can feel the anger from. Old wounds reopened, new joys unexplained. Panic surges. You rush to the mirror and check your reflection. The face is yours, but you stare harder, searching for subtle signs of change. A mole that wasn't there, an unfamiliar expression, the lingering shadow of another person's life behind your eyes. You run your tongue along your teeth, half expecting them to be different. But everything is just as you left it. The body is the same. The fingerprint still works, but the world is not. You begin to test the boundaries. You call friends, family, co-workers. Some respond as they always have. Others sound just slightly off, warmer or colder, using words you don't expect, remembering you in ways you can't recall. Don't you remember? They ask, and you lie, yes, of course, playing along until you can't anymore. Sometimes you reach voicemail and the greeting is your voice, but the name is wrong. You piece it together slowly. Something forked. In those missing 11 seconds, your life diverged, split along some hidden seam. One path led here, to this reality, familiar enough to pass casual inspection, but riddled with quiet fractures. The other path you can only guess at. A you who wakes up somewhere else, clutching a phone full of memories that don't belong. The days pass, and you adapt. You grow fluent in your new life, patching holes, learning stories on the fly, improvising history. Sometimes, late at night, you scroll back through the timeline, piecing together the person you must have been, the habits, the friends, the hopes. You mourn the memories you lost, the version of yourself erased by a blackout you didn't choose. But the sense of dislocation never fades. You wonder what happened in those 11 seconds. Did you die, and something else took your place? Did you swap timelines with a parallel self, a version of you who wanted to see what your world felt like from the inside? Or did reality simply shudder and you slipped through the cracks, a glitch riding on a lost heartbeat? You start to fear sleep, fear losing consciousness, fear another fork waiting in the dark. You set alarms, leave yourself notes, take endless photos, all to build a record you can trust, a chain of evidence anchoring you to yourself. But every morning brings new uncertainty, a contact missing, a playlist altered, a favorite shirt gone from your closet. You're never sure which details you've forgotten and which have been rewritten. Some nights, you scroll through your phone, reading old conversations with yourself, drafts, notes, reminders, ghost messages from another you. You look for patterns, for a way back, for a way to undo the fork and return to the timeline you remember. But the world is silent, the split irrevocable, and the only evidence that something happened is the life you now live and the fingerprint that still unlocks your phone. Over time, you grow used to the uncertainty. You become a collector of differences, an archivist of the almost true. You let go of old certainties, accept the shifting ground beneath your feet. Maybe, you think, this is how everyone lives, on a tightrope stretched between what was and what might have been, waking up each day in a world that feels familiar but is never quite the same. You wonder how many others have lost time, have forked in silence, have woken up to a world that fits them like a borrowed coat. In quiet moments, you wonder if the other you is out there, holding your memories in their hands, staring into a phone full of strangers, wondering what happened in those lost seconds. Maybe you'll meet, one day, crossing paths in a world neither of you remembers making. Maybe you'll recognize each other by the haunted look in your eyes, the way you both keep checking your phones for messages from the lives you left behind. Or maybe you'll wake up again someday and find yourself back where you started, your phone full of familiar names, your past sewn up tight. But you'll never forget those 11 seconds, the blackout that forked you, the unshakable knowledge that the world is not as solid as you once believed. And so, you live, straddling the line between memory and invention, between who you were and who you are now, carrying the secret in your pocket every time your fingerprint unlocks a phone that almost but not quite belongs to you. Letter from erased child. You find the envelope tucked between bills and advertisements. Ordinary, unremarkable, addressed to you in a child's careful handwriting you don't recognize. It's your birthday. You turn the envelope over, looking for a clue, expecting a joke or a mistake. But something in your chest tightens, a shadow of anticipation you can't explain. The moment you slide your finger under the seal, the world seems to tilt. Gravity goes sideways, the air thickens, and memory stirs in the pit of your stomach. Inside, a birthday card. The front is bright, covered in cartoon animals, the kind children pick for their parents. You open it, and your breath catches. There, in purple marker, is a name, her name, signed with a little heart. A message, clumsy and sweet. Happy birthday, I love you, Daddy. Mommy. Your hand trembles. You read it again and again, as if you could conjure the truth with repetition. But you don't have a child. You've never had a child. Your friends would say so, your family would say so, the world itself would insist. You flip through your memories, searching for the gap, the explanation. It's not there, on the surface. And yet, beneath the facts, beneath the hard lines of reality, you feel it. A warmth, a weight. The muscle memory of arms wrapped around someone small and precious. 1,000 flashes flicker in your mind, brushing soft hair, a sleepy laugh in the dark. A tiny hand clinging to yours in the supermarket. The feeling is there, so solid you could swear it was real. But every time you reach for a specific detail, it slips away like fog, replaced by the cold insistence of what is supposed to be true. You stare at the card, reading the signature over and over, searching for the trick, the prank, the rational answer. You check the postmark, the handwriting, the envelope for clues, but the facts only pile up, meaningless in the face of the ache blooming inside your chest. The feeling of loss is overwhelming, a grief that has no object, a longing for someone you know in your bones, and cannot name out loud. The room is suddenly too quiet. Your own house feels strange, haunted by echoes of a life you half remember. You catch yourself glancing at the doorway, expecting a familiar little face to burst in with a grin, demanding cake and laughter and attention. You find yourself searching for toys you never bought, photos that never hung on the wall, birthday candles you never lit. You're sure, for a moment, that you can hear her voice down the hall, until you remember, sharply, that she isn't there, wasn't ever there, can't be there. But the feeling won't let go. It presses on you, ancient and immediate, like the memory of a dream you can't quite shake. You realize that the pain isn't just longing, it's the vertigo of unreality, the terror that something essential was removed from your life, not by fate or tragedy, but by the world itself refusing to allow it. Somewhere, at the edge of perception, you sense a time when things were different, when her laughter filled the house, when your arms knew the shape of her. And now, reality has edited itself, rewritten the story, erased the evidence, and left you holding a birthday card from a ghost. You think of all the moments in life when you felt a sudden emptiness, a pang for something lost without reason. The dreams where you wake up crying, not sure why. The inexplicable sorrow at the sound of children's laughter. The sense of recognition in a stranger's eyes. You always thought these were just echoes, tricks of the mind. The residue of longing or regret. But now you wonder, what if the world is not as stable as it claims? What if, somewhere beyond the boundaries of this reality, there are versions of you who did get to keep her, who lived out every birthday, every bedtime, every unremarkable Tuesday? What if the love remains even when the person is gone, unremembered by everyone except the heart that refuses to forget? You run your fingers over the ink, half expecting it to smear, to vanish, to reveal itself as a mirage. But it stays, stubborn and real as the ache in your chest. The world insists you are childless, but your body remembers the opposite. Your soul aches with the shape of a presence that once filled your arms. Maybe, you think, the world is a patchwork, a place where stories collide and overwrite, where people are edited out as easily as a line in a script, where sometimes the seams don't hold and a fragment leaks through. A letter, a memory, a dream. You realize you have a choice. You can bury the card, dismiss the feeling, Let the world's logic win. Or you can honor the love that lingers, even when the world calls it impossible. You set the card on the mantle, not as proof, but as a monument to the possibility that the universe is larger and stranger than anyone imagines. A place where some loves refuse to be erased, where the memory of holding her survives the loss of the story itself. In the days that follow, you find yourself living with a new kind of awareness. The ache doesn't fade, but it becomes gentler, an invisible companion. When you walk by the park, you feel her shadow at your side. When you hear laughter in the distance, it rings like a memory, close enough to touch. You never speak of it, but sometimes, when you're alone, you say her name, just to see if the world will flinch, if the fabric of reality will ripple, if some echo will answer back. You know now that there are holes in the world, places where the story changes without warning, where love slips through even when memory fails. And so, when your birthday comes again, you find yourself waiting for the impossible card. You hope and you fear, and you love her still, this erased child, this ghost of joy and loss, who lived in your arms when the world still allowed her, and who left behind a letter as proof that once she was real. Glove that touches versions. It begins with a discovery, something lost, something left behind in a place you're not supposed to be. You're cleaning out a drawer in an old house, or digging through a forgotten box in the attic, or perhaps stumbling through a thrift store on a rainy afternoon, hunting for nothing in particular. Your fingers brush against leather. A glove, old but intact, dark and supple with age, humming with a faint electric pulse the moment your skin meets its surface. At first, you think it's a trick of the nerves, a static jolt, the ghost of touch. But when you slip the glove on, the sensation deepens. The air changes. Your sense of presence grows heavy, charged, as if the world is holding its breath. It's not just any glove. It fits perfectly, neither too tight nor too loose, as if it's been waiting for your hand alone. There's a vibration, soft, insistent, like a heartbeat. It starts in your palm, travels up your wrist, settles somewhere in your bones. You flex your fingers, studying the unfamiliar shape. The leather is cool, strangely soothing. You want to take it off, but something tells you to wait. You reach out, almost without thinking, and touch the nearest object. A chipped mug, half forgotten on the shelf. The moment the glove makes contact, you feel it. A rush of sensation, a strange, subtle wrongness, as if the mug is not quite itself. The ceramic is rougher than it should be, the glaze uneven, the crack you thought was a memory now, a gaping fissure. The coffee inside, you suddenly imagine, would be cold, bitter, metallic. You pull your hand away, unsettled. You try again. This time, you touch a framed photograph, a snapshot of strangers laughing at a park. The vibration in the glove intensifies, and the photo shivers under your palm. You feel a chill. The laughter in the image turns sour in your mind, forced and hollow. The grass looks yellowed, the sky grayer. A shadow creeps in at the edge of the frame, something missing that you can't quite name. You flinch, fighting the urge to drop the photo. When you do, the world snaps back, bright and ordinary. You realize the truth in fragments, dread curling through your stomach. The glove doesn't just make things feel different. It connects you to versions of reality that are slightly worse. Timelines where every object, every moment, every memory is eroded, tarnished, off-kilter in ways both subtle and sharp. You test it on everything. Your phone, when you touch it, the screen is faintly cracked, the battery half dead. Your last message from a friend laced with misunderstanding. The book on your nightstand is dog-eared, a page missing. The story's ending darker than you remember. Even the doorknob, cold and heavy beneath your fingers, seems to carry the memory of doors that never opened, days spent locked away in gloom. You begin to sense a pattern. Every object the glove touches reveals a story, a ghostly memory of a path not taken, a world where things went slightly, irreversibly wrong. The glove vibrates, low and mournful, as if sharing a secret regret. Sometimes the sensation is mild, a meal just a little burned, a song slightly out of tune. Other times, it's devastating. A childhood toy with a crack through its heart, a letter never sent, a promise broken by someone you trusted. You wonder who made the glove and why. Was it meant as a warning, a punishment, or an experiment? Was it made by someone desperate to understand the nature of fate, or someone simply lost, obsessed with regret? Or maybe it was left here for you, for anyone, by a version of yourself in another timeline, hoping to send a message across the endless divide. You grow restless. The world, once sturdy and knowable, now flickers at the edges. Every time you use the glove, you see a little deeper into the cracks, versions of your life that could have been, mistakes narrowly avoided, losses that almost were. You try to stop, to put the glove away, but curiosity burns hotter than fear. You need to know how bad it can get. You need to understand what separates this world from the ones just out of reach. You start to wonder about the people around you. What if you shook hands with the glove on? Would you feel their alternate selves, the versions of them who suffered more, lost more, failed more deeply? You resist the temptation. Some boundaries are not meant to be crossed. Late at night, you lie awake, glove hidden beneath your pillow. You replay the sensations, the cracked mug, the gray photograph, the bitter memory of love gone wrong. You feel gratitude, then guilt. Why should you live in the better world? What twist of luck, what cosmic roll of the dice spared you from the worse fates you touched through leather and time? The glove is a bridge, a warning, a way to feel the weight of what might have been. You try it once more, on yourself. You place the gloved hand over your heart. For a moment, the vibration is overwhelming. You sense your own shadow, a version of you who made the wrong choices, who said the thing that could never be unsaid, who let bitterness win. You feel the ache of that life, the dull heaviness in the chest, the taste of regret. But as you pull your hand away, you return to yourself. Older, wiser, grateful, trembling. The glove stays with you, hidden but never forgotten. Sometimes you wonder if you'll ever truly be free of it, or if you even want to be. You walk through your days with a new awareness, the understanding that every object, every person, every moment exists on the knife edge of possibility. Things could always have been worse. Things still could be. In the end, you realize the glove is not just a curse, but a gift. A reminder of the countless timelines you will never know. A lesson in humility, empathy, and the fragile miracle of the present. Each time you reach for something, you hesitate, remembering the ghostly vibration, the subtle wrongness of the versions that are not yours. And for a moment, you hold the world a little more gently, a little more grateful for all the ways this life, imperfect as it is, might have slipped away. Flashlight that reveals divergence. You've always thought of your kitchen as the safest, most ordinary room in your home, the place where midnight snacks are born, where the hum of the refrigerator becomes a lullaby, where the world outside is held at bay by soft lamplight and linoleum underfoot. The darkness there is familiar, unthreatening. You move through it half asleep, the creak of the floorboards under your toes almost a comfort. But tonight, there's something different. Tonight, you bring with you a new flashlight, a cheap thing, picked up at the hardware store. Nothing special except for the way it feels in your hand. A little too cold, a little too heavy, as if holding it makes your whole body more aware of the pulse of electricity, the hush of unlit corners. You flip the switch. A beam of perfect white slices the dark. For a second, the world is as it should be. Shadow and shape, table and chair, the tidy expected outline of a room you know by heart. But then, as the light sweeps across the counters, something shifts. Your shadow splits. There, on the wall, are two silhouettes. One solid, moving as you move, perfectly matched to your every gesture. But beside it, a second shadow stutters into existence, wavering just out of sync, flickering a fraction of a second ahead or behind. The line of its shoulder is wrong. The angle of its arm, the tilt of its head, the way its fingers curl against the counter, they don't match what you know to be true. You freeze, the flashlight trembling in your hand, breath caught in your throat. The beam flickers and the second shadow flickers with it, never quite catching up to the first. For a moment, it almost looks back at you, a suggestion of eyes, a mouth twisted in concentration or fear or curiosity. You want to believe it's a trick, a glitch in the bulb, some artifact of tiredness and too many late nights. But you know your house, you know your kitchen, you know the way light and shadow should behave. You sweep the flashlight across the room. Each object it passes throws not one, but two shadows. One you recognize, one you don't. The refrigerator, in the second shadow, is farther to the left. The dish rack is missing entirely. There's a gap in the counter where, in your world, there's a row of mugs. The clock above the stove is shattered in the other shadow, stuck forever at 2:17, even as yours ticks on toward midnight. The floor tiles are a different pattern, the window smaller, as if the room in that other world never quite finished becoming itself. The hairs on your arms stand up. You can't shake the feeling that you're being watched, not from behind, not from within the room, but from within the very walls. From a reality that runs alongside yours, close enough to see but never to touch. The second shadow seems to pulse with awareness, as if some other version of you is standing in their own kitchen, shining their own light, staring back through the fabric of possibility and wondering which world is real. You test it. Move your hand, raise the flashlight, set it down on the table. The shadows move together, but the second is always a beat off, always not quite right. You place your palm on the counter, and in the other shadow, your hand hovers in empty space. You open a cupboard, and the second shadow's door swings the opposite way, as if the hinges were installed on the wrong side. Every experiment deepens the uncanny, the way the shadows interact with each other, sometimes fusing, sometimes fighting, sometimes flickering like static when you move too quickly. A wave of nausea hits you, the vertigo of seeing too much, of knowing that your world isn't the only one tracing its routines in the dark. You wonder, is that second shadow really yours? Or does the flashlight reveal a divergence, a split in reality, a seam where two possible worlds overlap, out of phase but not out of reach? You think of all the moments in your life when you felt something was off, the lost keys that turned up in impossible places, the familiar face on a stranger in the street, the sense of déjà vu so powerful it threatened to swallow you. Maybe those were all glimpses of the other side, echoes of choices you didn't make, doors you didn't open, versions of yourself you'll never become. You play with the light, unable to stop. You walk into the living room, the hallway, the bedroom. Every room is doubled. Every object throws two shadows, the ordinary and the aberrant, the present and the possible, the home you know and the home you'll never see. In some rooms, the second shadow lags behind, slow and listless, like someone exhausted or afraid. In others, it races ahead, urgent, eager, showing you futures you haven't lived yet. Sometimes you catch the shape of another person in the second shadow, a visitor, a friend, a lover, a stranger, gone when you flick the beam away. The night grows thick with questions. If the flashlight shows the seam between worlds, what happens if you cross it? If you reach out and touch the other shadow, will you feel the chill of another reality, or will your hand pass through empty air? If you turn off the flashlight, will the second shadow vanish, or will it linger in the darkness, waiting for you to notice it without the comfort of light? You think about smashing the flashlight, burying it in the backyard, throwing it in the river, but you can't. You need to know. Every night you find yourself drawn back to the kitchen, to the darkness, to the beam of light that reveals too much. You chart the differences, draw maps of the other rooms, try to find a pattern in the divergence. Some nights, the shadows are closer together, nearly matching. Other nights, the split is wide. The difference is so profound it feels like you're peering into a dream or a nightmare. You begin to wonder about the other you. Does she see you? Does she shine her own light and watch your shadow split on her wall, shuddering at the wrongness of your layout, the strangeness of your silhouette? Do you haunt her as she haunts you, each of you convinced the other is the ghost? You try to send messages, write words on a pad, hold them up to the light, hoping the other shadow will mimic you, understand, reach back. But nothing changes. The gap remains. The two shadows keep their distance, locked in their own orbits, close but never converging. Sleep becomes elusive. The knowledge that your world is not the only one is a weight you carry into every day. You see the flicker of the second shadow in the corners of your eyes, even in daylight. The kitchen is no longer safe, no longer ordinary. It is the place where the universe comes undone, where the boundaries fail, where you are forced to reckon with the infinite branching of possibility. You realize, at last, that the flashlight doesn't create the divergence. It only reveals what was always there, the split paths, the alternate lives, the countless ways you could have been someone else, somewhere else, at every moment. You wonder if, one day, the shadows will converge, if the seam will close, if the worlds will merge, if you will finally meet the other self, whose life has always run parallel to your own. Or, if the light will go out and you'll be left with only the memory of the split, the ache of unchosen futures, the knowledge that for every shadow you see, there are countless more you never will. And so, you keep the flashlight and you keep searching. Because even if the second shadow never answers, even if the divergence never heals, you are forever changed by what you have seen, by the knowledge that reality is wide enough to hold every possibility, every regret, every dream, and that sometimes, in the dark, all you need to do is shine a light to see just how strange and beautiful your world really is. Apology from past you. It's a morning like any other. Routines and half-awake rituals. The world blurring at the edges as you stumble into the kitchen, coffee on your mind, phone in your hand. That's when you see it. A neon yellow sticky note on the fridge, curling at the corners, scrawled in your own handwriting, but with a jitter you don't recognize. 3 words. Strange and terse. I made a deal. Sorry. You stare at the note, mind racing. It's your script, the way you loop your Y's and drag out your S's. You try to recall when you wrote it, late last night, sometime in a stress haze, but there's nothing. No memory, no flash of intention, just a cold, uneasy pit blooming in your stomach. You peel the note off, turn it over, hoping for a clue, but the back is blank. At first, you dismiss it as a prank on yourself, maybe a sleepwalking joke, the product of a tired mind. You carry on, tucking the note into your pocket and telling yourself you'll remember later. But as the day wears on, small oddities begin to gather. A feeling that your keys are in the wrong place. An email you don't recall sending. Its tone a little sharper, a little more desperate than usual. The day feels stretched, as if something important is happening just out of view. It's that night the dreams begin. You wake at 3:13 a.m., heart pounding, sheets tangled around you. In the dream, you are not yourself. At least, not the self you remember. You're older or younger, your voice a little different, your posture unfamiliar. You're somewhere you've never been before, a gray-lit room with a door that never quite opens. There's a figure across the table, faceless and looming, and in your dream hand, a pen shakes over a contract thick with ink. "Do you accept?" the figure asks. You sign without reading, a rush of dread and relief flooding your chest. The next day, you find a faint blue mark on your palm, as if you've slept on a pen. But no ink stains your sheets. You try to shake the feeling, but the dreams come again, clearer now, more vivid, replaying a negotiation you never remember living through. Each time, you're a little less yourself, trading pieces of memory for promises, signing away the right to certain days, offering up secrets you barely recognize as your own. You search your life for evidence. You comb through notebooks and calendars, voice memos and emails, hunting for the fracture point. When did you make this so-called deal, and with whom? The more you look, the more gaps you find. An afternoon you can't account for. A string of texts you don't remember sending. A sudden windfall or reversal that feels too neat to be coincidence. It's as if a part of you has been working behind your back, cutting bargains in the dark. You start to notice changes. The way people react to you shifts. A coworker avoids your eyes. A friend cancels plans without explanation. You stumble upon small, improbable bits of luck. A lost bill paid. A bad situation diffused before it escalates. At first, you're grateful, but the relief curdles as the dreams grow more intense. You see yourself making trade after trade, bargaining away little joys for protection, forgetting pain in exchange for possibility. With each deal, your sense of self splinters further, the dreams bleeding into waking life. You begin to wonder who, exactly, wrote that note. Was it the person you were yesterday, a week ago, a version of you who lived through some unspeakable moment and chose this path? Or is it someone deeper, a past self so desperate, so afraid, they struck a bargain to ensure your present safety, your present comfort, no matter the cost? You try to write a note back, to apologize to your past self, to beg for clarity, but your hand shakes and the words come out wrong. Every attempt at an answer leaves you with more questions. You are haunted by the knowledge that some part of you acted in secret, changed your life forever, and left only the briefest, guiltiest warning behind. The dreams continue. Sometimes you see glimpses of futures that might have been, faces that almost became friends, doors you almost walked through, joys and heartbreaks you almost owned. You wake up mourning things you never had, missing people you never met, haunted by deals you never remember making. You keep the sticky note in your wallet now, a reminder that the past is not as fixed as you believed. Every time you touch it, you wonder, what did I give away? What did I buy myself? At the cost of memory and mystery? Was it worth it? Or will the debt come due in ways you have yet to dream? And each night, as you close your eyes, you wait for the next message from the self you left behind, hoping it will be an apology, a warning, or just maybe a way to break the deal and finally remember who you were before you made it. Location that collapses chronology. There's a place in your city, or maybe your memory, that you return to without thinking, a plaza paved with worn stones and echoes. You step into it the way you step into a dream, gently, almost reverently, unsure if you are entering the world or being led into something older, deeper, more alive than you. The air feels charged, heavy with expectation and the scent of distant rain, and for a moment you stand still, caught in a strange hush. People stream by on all sides, faces turned away, busy with errands and lives that barely intersect with yours. But something is different here. The world feels looser, unfastened from its usual sequence. The ordinary rules of time, yesterday, today, tomorrow, seem to falter, replaced by a slow tidal pull that you can almost feel beneath your feet. You stand in the center, looking at the familiar landmarks. The fountain scarred with moss, the cracked bench under the willow, the old clock tower casting its elongated shadow. You blink, and the plaza blurs, not with movement, but with memory. You watch as your own childhood peels through the crowd like a faded photograph coming to life. There you are, running past, sneakers slapping the stones, chased by laughter you only half remember. You feel it. Not just the sight, but the sensation of younger legs, quicker lungs, the wild, unsorted hope of being new to the world. But you never move. You never leave the spot. The present hums all around you, but time itself unspools, years bleeding into each other like watercolors left out in the rain. You see faces you haven't seen in decades. Your childhood teacher, somehow younger and older at once, passing you with a brief nod, her arms full of papers. You know she'll lose before the end of the day. Teenagers drift by, their music leaking from cheap headphones, wearing fashions you forgot you ever owned. Sometimes, in the press of bodies, you catch glimpses of yourself, older, thinner, grayer, or dressed in colors you've never worn. Sometimes your reflection in the shop window looks back at you with a different set of worries in its eyes. You try to anchor yourself in the moment. Look at your hands, listen for the tick of the clock, feel the weight of your body. But the plaza doesn't care for anchors. It's as if the stones themselves have been polished smooth by the passage of memory, by the footfalls of all your possible selves. The past leaks into the present, the future circles back on itself, and every step anyone takes leaves a faint afterimage, visible only to you. It's not chaos, it's not frightening exactly. There's a kind of peace in watching the years overlap, watching your younger self dart through the legs of strangers, watching old friends wave at you from a decade ago, watching lovers pass by, their hands almost touching, their faces blurred with the knowledge of what's to come. You realize, standing in the plaza, that you are all of them at once, the child, the teenager, the adult, the stranger. Each version layered atop the last, transparent and unrepeatable, visible only here, only now, only in this place where time goes soft at the edges. You see people you miss. Some gone, some lost, some never met. They cross the plaza as if drawn by invisible threads, glancing your way with the half-smile of recognition, as if they too sense the thinning of the years. For a moment, you ache to reach out, to warn them, to comfort them, to ask for forgiveness for things you haven't yet done. But you are rooted, unable to move, a fixed point around which the world rotates. You realize that this is what it means to exist in time, to watch yourself become and unbecome, to see the moments that made you and the moments you let slip by, all gathered in one trembling, impossible present. You wonder how long you've been standing here. Minutes? Hours? A lifetime? The world spins on, but the plaza holds you, keeps you suspended between the before and the after, the could have been and the still to come. You realize slowly that this is a kind of gift, the chance to see your life as a whole, to feel the weight and the lightness of every day at once, to know that every version of yourself still exists, somewhere, woven into the fabric of this impossible, collapsing chronology. You close your eyes, just for a moment, and listen. Footsteps echo in patterns you almost remember. Your mother's, your friend's, your own, 1,000 times over. Laughter, shouts, music from a lost summer float by. The wind shifts, and you smell lilacs and cigarettes, autumn leaves and new rain, the scent of every season folding in on itself, like the pages of a book read out of order. When you open your eyes, the plaza is the same, but you are not. Something in you has been loosened, softened, freed. You know now that time is a river with many currents, and you are both the stone and the water, the memory and the moment, the one who stands still and the one who keeps moving. You walk away finally, your steps echoing across the stones. You leave behind every version of yourself you've ever been, knowing that some part of you will always be standing in that plaza, watching the years pass in both directions, and that maybe the truest way to live is to embrace the collapse, to be present for all your lives at once. Magnet that pulls past. You find the magnet in a box of old things, tarnished, weighty, and strangely cold, as if it remembers being hidden from the world for a long, long time. There's something uncanny about it, some heaviness in your palm, a faint vibration just beneath the surface. The edges are smooth, the shape unremarkable, yet you sense a subtle pull, a gravity that's not quite physical. It isn't just metal, it's a key, a trigger, a fragment of something that shouldn't exist. One night, curiosity drags you to the back of your closet, to a battered lockbox you haven't opened in years. The box was meant to guard the past. Old documents, spent batteries, a tangle of keys with nowhere left to fit. You've lost the combination long ago, but tonight the urge is too strong to ignore. You take the rare magnet in your hand and hold it to the lock, half joking, half hoping. You expect nothing. But something happens. You hear a tiny click, a whimper of surrender, not the shout of a proper mechanism. The lid slides open without resistance, as if the lock had been waiting, longing for this moment of reunion. Inside, you expect dust, maybe the forgotten scraps of your younger self. Instead, you find a stack of receipts. Fresh, crisp, not yellowed by time or curled by neglect. The paper is warm, the ink dark and sharp. You lift one, puzzled, and read it. A dinner for two at a restaurant you've never heard of, dated tomorrow. You blink, turn the slip over, searching for an error, a prank, a logical thread to grab onto. But every line is perfectly clear. The signature is yours, confident and familiar, yet you have no memory of writing it. Another receipt, movie tickets for a film you haven't seen, popcorn and soda, the timestamp neatly marked just a few hours into the future. There's a bag of groceries you haven't bought, a toy you never picked out, a bouquet of flowers with a card in your own handwriting. Happy anniversary, see you soon. The receipts pile up, each more bewildering than the last. Evidence of lives you haven't lived, purchases you haven't made, events that are only just out of reach. For a moment, you feel untethered. The magnet rests heavy in your palm, humming with possibility, as if it's pulling on something more than metal, pulling on the fabric of causality itself. You realize, with a shiver, that the box is no longer a container for the past, but a window into a timeline you're about to enter. Every item is a thread, every receipt a contract, every date a quiet promise that the future has already started to claim you. You sit back, trying to remember, trying to guess how these things could possibly unfold. Did you agree to dinner tomorrow, forgetful and distracted, the details lost in the fog of daily routine? Is there a meeting scheduled, a phone call promised, a decision already made in some unconscious corner of your mind? Or is it something stranger, something impossible, the magnet pulling not just on iron and steel, but on memory and intent, collapsing the distance between what has happened and what must inevitably occur? You reach for the receipts again, searching for loopholes, contradictions, a clue that will make sense of the chaos. You check your phone for calendar appointments, your pockets for the objects described on the paper, but nothing matches. The world outside the lockbox continues undisturbed, moving forward as always, oblivious to the cargo of unrealized moments waiting quietly in your closet. You wonder, suddenly, whether you have a choice. Are these receipts predictions, warnings, or instructions? Can you refuse a dinner you haven't yet attended? Can you skip the movie, leave the groceries unbought, let the bouquet wither unseen in a future that never arrives? Or does the act of opening the box, of knowing, set the events in motion, binding you to a path you never chose, locking you into a script written in the invisible ink of tomorrow? A low panic grows inside you, the creeping realization that time is not as solid as it once seemed. You hold the magnet up, examine its surface for markings or clues, but it is stubbornly blank. Its only magic is this: it collapses the wall between what was, what is, and what might be. The lockbox was supposed to guard your memories, but now it threatens to overwrite them, filling the present with echoes from a future that refuses to wait its turn. The days pass. You try to ignore the receipts, to treat them as curiosities, stray artifacts with no power, but the world seems to shift around them. A friend calls, inviting you to dinner at a place whose name you only now recognize. A movie catches your eye, and a strange, cold certainty flickers in your chest. You find yourself repeating the words you saw written in your own hand, sometimes without meaning to, like an actor fumbling for lines in a play whose script is hidden just out of sight. You become superstitious, wary of every small decision. Each choice is a thread leading toward one of those receipts, each deviation a test of fate's resolve. You wonder what would happen if you tried to fight it, if you skipped the dinner, ignored the anniversary, left the magnet buried beneath layers of dust. But the receipts remain, stubborn and fresh, always one day ahead, always marking a path through a future that feels both inevitable and impossibly fragile. At night, you dream of the lockbox, of hands, your own and not your own, sorting through endless paper, signing names, making promises, erasing regrets. You wake with the magnet pressed into your palm, heavy and cool, and the sense that the past and the future are swirling together in a vortex you can't escape. You come to accept, in a slow and uneasy way, that the magnet's true power is not in revealing the future, but in making you feel the past pulling forward, insistently, relentlessly, until the two become indistinguishable. Every moment is a receipt, proof that you were here, that you will be here, that the story is still being written, with or without your permission. And sometimes, in the quiet hours, you hold the magnet close, feeling its pulse, and wonder if the real magic isn't in seeing tomorrow's receipts, but in realizing that every choice you make leaves its own strange imprint on time, paper trails from lives not yet lived, drawn into your orbit by forces just as mysterious, just as powerful as any magnet. Facts that never sent. You're staying late at the office after the last lights have gone out, and the world outside the window feels frozen, paused. The low hum of computers is your only company, the fluorescent glow above washing the cubicles in faded, yellow light. Your desk is a clutter of reports and pens, empty mugs, the accumulated detritus of another endless week. There's no one left in the building, no reason for anyone to be here. The silence is thick and absolute. And then, out of nowhere, a sound, a sharp electronic beep. Not from your computer, not from your phone. It's coming from the corner where the office fax machine sits. You barely remember the last time anyone used it. It's an ancient thing, squat and gray, its plastic faded by years of sun and dust. You almost laugh. Fax machines belong to another era, a world of paper trails and static crackle, of messages crawling through phone lines. You wonder if maybe it's finally died, emitting a last gasp. But then it beeps again, louder this time, persistent. You get up, uneasy, and walk over. There, under a layer of dust, the old fax machine shudders to life. The power light flickers, the rollers churn, something inside is moving. You look down in disbelief. The cord is unplugged, dangling loosely, nowhere near the wall. There's no paper in the tray, no phone line, no possible way for this thing to be working. Yet, as you watch, the fax machine prints. Slowly, line by line, a sheet of paper emerges, curling into the output bin. The machine hisses, judders, spits out one final creased page and falls silent, the power light dying as suddenly as it appeared. The air in the office is cold now, thick with the sense that something has intruded. You reach out, hand shaking, and pick up the page. It isn't what you expect. No text, no letterhead, no clipped business memo. Just a string of numbers, latitude and longitude, precise to 6 decimal points. Beneath it, a date, June 8th, 2123. No name, no message, no sender, no signature. A timestamp in the top right, 1847. Nothing else. You stand in the silence, the paper warm from the machine. You stare at the coordinates, mind racing. The year, 2123, a century from now. It's not a joke, not a prank. No one else is here. You check the machine, searching for a hidden battery, a trick, a transmitter, but it's empty, dead, dusty, unplugged, untouched for months, maybe years. There's no explanation. There's no logic. You return to your desk, page trembling in your hands. You type the coordinates into your phone, curiosity clawing at your chest. The map zooms in. Maybe you expect a government facility, a buried lab, a famous landmark. Instead, it's nothing. An empty patch of land, a remote field far from any city. You switch to satellite view. There's a road, a tangle of trees, a blank stretch of earth. No buildings, no explanation. You search for the date, June 8th, 2123. But the search returns nothing. That day hasn't happened yet. That day won't come for another 100 years. The night deepens around you, thick with questions. Who sent the fax? Why now? Why here? Why you? You check your office email, your phone, your calendar, anything for a clue, a context, a reason. Nothing. You wonder if you're losing your mind, if exhaustion has finally warped the world beyond recognition. But the page is real, the numbers precise, the ink sharp and wet beneath your fingertips. You tell yourself it's a glitch, an echo, a prank left by someone cleverer than you. But the unease lingers. There's no way for the machine to have worked. There's no way for the fax to have sent. You remember stories from childhood, tales of messages that arrive before their sender, warnings scribbled in the margins of reality, phone calls from the future, letters found in old walls, clocks that strike 13. You decide to leave, locking up in a daze, the fax page folded in your pocket. As you step outside, the city feels different, quieter, sharper, as if the world is listening, waiting to see what you'll do next. Every street lamp is a spotlight, every shadow a watcher. You wonder if, in some other time, another version of yourself will stand at those coordinates on that day, searching for a sign. Days pass. You search for answers. You dig through office records, old phone logs, maintenance files. No one claims to have sent anything. No service technician has visited. The fax machine stays dead, stubbornly silent, as if nothing ever happened. But you keep the page, hidden deep in your bag, taking it out at night to trace the numbers, memorizing the coordinates, the date, the time. You start to notice small changes. Your phone buzzes at odd hours, displaying calls with no number. You hear strange interference on the radio, voices stuttering in patterns that almost sound like those same numbers, repeated like a code. You check the coordinates again, searching the news for any incident, any hint of significance. Still nothing. The date, far in the future, haunts you. Sleep becomes difficult. You dream of distant landscapes, empty fields beneath red skies, a feeling of standing on the earth with no one else alive. In some dreams, you see a figure in the distance, waving. Sometimes it's you. Sometimes it's someone you've never seen before. Always you wake with the sense that you've missed something, a message half heard, a warning unheeded. You wonder if the fax was ever meant for you at all. Maybe it was a signal sent through a broken loop, a lost transmission bouncing through time, looking for a machine that could receive it. Maybe the sender doesn't exist yet. Maybe it's someone in 2123, desperate, alone, reaching back across a century for help. Or maybe, in some future you cannot imagine, you are the sender. The person who will stand at those coordinates, on that day, waiting for a reply that never comes. The world moves on. The office fills with new faces, new machines, new routines, but the page stays with you, a constant, a riddle. Sometimes you wonder what would happen if you went to those coordinates, if you left a message for the future, if you tried to complete the loop. Sometimes you wonder if you'd find yourself standing alone, clutching a page from a fax that never sent, waiting for a sign that may never arrive. Years from now, the office will be gone, the machines rusted and silent, the world changed in ways you can't predict. But somewhere, out there, A piece of paper endures, coordinates and a date burned into its fibers. A whisper across time, proof that sometimes reality folds and flickers, and for a moment the impossible slips through.